All right. All right. What's going on? We don't have time. It's an emergency, ladies and gentlemen. We don't have time. We don't have time. This is not looking good. Listen, he is openly telling us that he is not leaving office, and a lot of people still don't believe it. Steve Bannon is out here telling us he is not leaving office. Donald Trump is not going to leave the office in 2028. He's just not going to do it. And a lot of people still don't believe it. How much proof do we need at this point that this is what they seek to do? They seek to retain power at all costs. They are not going to give it up. Will they be successful at it is a totally different story. But they don't seek to relinquish power to anyone. It doesn't matter if they're Democrats or not. MAGA seeks to stay in power no matter what. We will go over the clips of Steve Bannon again, for the 18th time, for the 20th time, for the 80th time. I don't know how long it's been, but he's been saying this for quite some time. They're selling Donald Trump 2028 merch. And they're like, oh, it's a troll. They're trolling people. Oh, this is what the president does. He likes to troll people. This is not the case. This is not what's going on here. They fully plan on staying in power forever. Sounds hyperbolic. Yeah, I know. But look at what they've been putting out. What other president has been able to do something like that? Not in my lifetime. Has been able to do something like that. And then people try to rationalize it. They go through the mental gymnastics of trying to rationalize what is going on in this country at this time. It's like they don't want to come to terms with the reality of what we're facing. And that is incredibly concerning. And Steve Bannon says as much. He says, it's time for you to come to terms with the reality that you are facing. Pretty much. I'm paraphrasing. We're going to play the clip, and then we're going to play him saying that we seek to stay in power at all costs in 2020. He said this in 2020. He said, Trump, even if he loses the election, we're going to say that we won the election, and we're going to move forward as such. We're going to play Roger Stone telling you that in 2020. Even if we lose the election, it doesn't matter. We seek to stay in power, and we're going to say that we won, even if we lost. Openly telling you, openly conspiring to stay in office to overthrow the American form of government, to radically change it. It's a real conspiracy theory. And the conspiracy theorists, for some reason, don't want to chase it. They don't want to go after a real conspiracy theory. They want to chase the nonsense all day long. When they see a real conspiracy in their face, they try to rationalize it. They try to, no, that's not the case. It's a little crazy. Steve Bannon, who is he? Who is Steve Bannon? Why should we take what he says seriously? It's incredible. I don't get it. My name is Billy Ray Valentine. This is the Guerrilla Underground. What is going on? We are broadcasting live on YouTube. At least we should be. I'm not sure. I don't even know if you can find the channel at this point. It is our first broadcast over there. And as soon as we gain more followers, we'll become more visible. I'm assuming that's what happens over there. We have about 30, I think, or 40 followers at this point. We need 100. We're looking for 100 followers. We're going to help me get to 100. Look up Guerrilla Underground. There are several Guerrilla Underground channels. A lot of them are old and inactive. Ours will be the most active given their activity, from what I can tell. But if you look at Guerrilla Underground, there is a green gorilla silhouette. There's a gorilla silhouette, a gorilla head surrounded by a green color around it. That's my channel. It's Guerrilla Underground. Go look it up. I'm going to drop the the link in the chat over here on X, and whomever wishes to subscribe, please go ahead and do so. Yeah, I would love it. We have guests coming on today. 2 guests. Jeremy Rashka show will be here, and John Klezak as well for the second and third hours, and we will discuss stuff. We don't go 3 hours every week, but this week we will. Due to my inactivity last week. Listen, we went over this on America Unplugged for a little bit. This is gonna be a deeper dive here for people that want to see it, that have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. We are in deep trouble, in serious trouble. You can talk all the crap you want about Barack Hussein Obama, about Joe Biden, about Kamala Harris, about George W. Bush, about Bill Clinton, about George Bush's dad, about Ronald Reagan. None of them were able to get away with or even attempting to do what Donald Trump is currently doing. So wherever you side on this, in this left-right paradigm, wherever you are, you need to realize that this is unprecedented. People say, well, no, this has happened before. You know, and they try to rationalize these things like, oh, well, this is nothing new. Of course it's freaking new. We've never, not in my lifetime, have we ever seen anything like this. And even if it wasn't new, right? Even if it isn't new, it doesn't justify what's going on now. So we can't use it as a tool to discredit or to downgrade the situation. It's what we're facing now. Regardless, there is a clear escalation of unlawfulness, a clear escalation of disregard for the Constitution of the United States, a clear escalation of disregard for the freedoms of the working people of the United States of America. It's a clear escalation. It's undeniable. It's not debatable. Although some people will seek to debate that point, it is not debatable. This is what's going on. All right. I'll drop the YouTube link at some point. I suck at promoting shit. Awful, historically. So there's that. So we'll figure out how to promote this shit somehow. And I'll drop the link in here in the chat at some point during the course of the show. Let's get right into it. We don't have a lot of time. At the top of the hour, Jeremy Rashka show, at the top of the second hour, will be our guest. And we're going to get right into it, to whatever he wants to discuss. So let's do some of this. Here is your friend and mine, Steve Bannon, architect of MAGA, one of the cornerstones of MAGA. If you don't know, you better find out. If you don't know, you're slacking. You're slacking at this point. I tweeted something out the other day. I said, if you're not angry, you don't get it. If you're not angry at what's going on right now, you severely don't get it. You do not understand in how much hot water we find ourselves in at this point. If you don't know who Steve Bannon is, you are behind. You need to do your remedial math, your remedial English. You are behind if you don't know who this man is and how pivotal he's been to MAGA. I think he is the reason that we're talking about Donald Trump today. Without Steve Bannon, this doesn't happen. Here he is being interviewed by The Economist. I was going to go through the whole thing. We can at some point, but right now we're going to hit what he said. Let's pay attention. There's more to this.
Moment that if you didn't have populist nationalism stopped the managed decline of the country by the elites of the nation.
Oh, gosh.
I made this kit for women that want to try makeup but don't know where to start.
Of course, we get the advertisement that comes in right there. Hold on for a second. Here we go.
A term in order to see that job through.
Well, he's going to get a third.
Let me rewind it a little bit.
Have populist nationalism stopped the managed decline of the country by the elites of the nation.
And does he need a third term in order to see that job through?
Well, he's going to get a third term. So Trump 28, Trump is going to be president in 28, and people just ought to get accommodated with that.
Does that look like a man that is joking? Does that look like a man that is trolling people? Not to me. He looks dead serious. Let's look at his face. I'm sorry if I'm making you look at his face. I know it's a torture to a lot of people, but I mean, we have to face the reality of things. He is dead serious. He is not playing any games. He says Donald Trump will get a third term at the presidency of the United States. They're going to do this by hook or by crook. They're going to at least attempt it. We are going to have to drag this man out of the White House, unfortunately. They may not be successful, which is, best case scenario. They're certainly going to try. And I will show you why they're going to try, because they've already done it once. This is their MO. This is their MO. It's what they do. It's what they've done. And it's what they're going to do again. And they're in the best position to do it now than ever before. Let's go back a little bit.
Politics and power in America. And how do you do that? With no political training, by the elites of the nation.
And does he need a third term in order to see that job through?
Well, he's going to get a third term. So Trump 28, Trump is going to be president in 28, and people just ought to get accommodated with that.
So what about the 22nd Amendment?
There's many different alternatives.
People just ought to get accommodated with that, is what he's saying. Just get accommodated with it. Face it, America. Face it. That's what he's saying. And that's what I'm telling you. We need to man up and face it. Woman up and face it. This is what I mean. We are in hot water. Ignoring the problem is not going to make it better. We need to tackle it now. The more we let this go, the harder it will be to put a stop to it. Here we go.
Accommodated with that.
So what about the 22nd Amendment?
There's many different alternatives. At the appropriate time, we'll lay out what the plan is, but there's a plan, and President Trump will be the president in 28. We had longer odds in 16.
He says there's many different alternatives. There are no alternatives. There are pseudo interpretations of the law. This is what they will do. This is what Stephen Miller is expert at. This is what John Eastman is expert at providing pseudo interpretations of a law, of any law. They take them and twist them and turn them and they make them fit. Or they just dictate this to a dumbed down public. And we'll get into a little bit of that too. I want to show you what Steve Bannon does, what Steve Bannon thinks of all of you, and how he was able to exploit that in order to propel Donald Trump to a second administration, which should have never happened. It should have never happened on a very basic level of just understanding the threat that this guy posed to this country. But it should have never happened just based on the fact that he's a convicted felon. If I can't get a job at McDonald's being a convicted felon, how can this guy become the president of the United States? How? How's that a thing? But it's what happened. It's what we're facing now. Let's finish this clip.
Longer odds in 24 than we got in 28. And President Trump will be the president of the United States, and the country needs him to be president of the United States. We have to finish what we started. And the way we finish it through Trump is a vehicle. I know this will drive you guys crazy, but he's a vehicle of divine providence. He's
and this is part of the psychological warfare that's been waged upon the American people. He's a vehicle of divine providence. They are using your faith against you. Christians, they are taking the most degenerate, the most dumbed down, the most hypocritical car salesmen, used car salesmen, And that's not even a knock on used car salesmen. I'm sorry, guys. Not to insult used car salesmen with comparing them to Donald Trump. They've taken this guy and presented him to you as if he is a vehicle from the Lord above in order to save America. This is what they've managed to do successfully. It's hard for me to come to terms with how America can buy into this. But it happened. Of course, not all Americans, but a good portion of Americans, even though a lot of people are separating themselves from this nonsense at this point. And bravo, thank you. Please come over. We have so much space here, and we need everyone that has broken away from MAGA. We need to unite. We need to come together so we can push back against the tyranny. We can push back against this nonsense. We need to do it together. So please come over. Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you. Ex-MAGAs. We want ex-MAGAs. I want to feature ex-MAGAs on this show. I want you to come on and give us your story and how you broke away from the cult. All right, let's finish this clip. They're using Christian nationalism. They're using Christians and turning them into Christian nationalists. And Donald Trump is your prophet. He is your Moses. He is your Jesus. Incredible.
He's very imperfect. He's not churchy, not particularly religious, but he's an instrument of divine will.
He's admitting it right here. Not that it matters to the MAGA cult. He is admitting that he's not very churchy. You remember when they asked him, we should have pulled up this clip, that when they asked him what his favorite Bible verse is. And he was like, oh man, he's like, I'd rather not say, it's very personal. I'd rather not say, it's so personal to me. I'd rather not say. It's because he doesn't fucking know. He has no clue. He doesn't have a favorite Bible verse. He's never read the book in his life. But hey, he's supposed to be the next coming of Christ to some people.
Tell this of how he's pulled this off. We need him for at least one more term, right? And he'll get that in 28.
You're not driving me crazy. I'm trying to understand the coherence of the things you've just told me in the last few minutes. On the one hand, you've said the Constitution is fit for purpose. Secondly, you've said that President Trump needs another term, even though the 22nd Amendment makes pretty clear that he cannot have another.
And bravo to this presenter, to this person, this host. I don't know who she is, but she is posing the right questions here, and this is what we need to do. I am not a journalist, and I'm a commentator. I'm sitting here in my kitchen doing this show. But I would like to think if I ever got Steve Bannon, I would press him to this degree, maybe harder. But she's doing it. You know, it's her job. But that doesn't mean these people do their jobs. They typically lob off very, very soft softballs to these people so they can hit them out of the park. No real pushback. But she did some work here, and I've been seeing that more and more with liberal presenters and even some conservative presenters have been really pressing some of these people. So that's dope.
Does it make that clear?
Because he's in his second term already.
At some point in time, we will make sure we go through Zanny and define all those terms.
But even if you find a way to undermine,
we will define all those terms. They are going to redefine these terms. And since the American public isn't schooled enough, and we can talk about why that is, and that includes me, since we are not schooled enough in what the Constitution says and what this document actually means, word by word, they're able to get away with this. It's the deliberate dumbing down of America. It's happened for a long time. Steve Bannon is fully aware of it. And that's why they are manipulating. That's why they are looking for ways around the law manipulating verbiage along with Stephen Miller, who is a very disgusting human being, and he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing, and they're taking advantage of their own base. They're taking advantage of the American people. And I venture to say that they're taking advantage of Donald Trump himself. It's elder abuse what they're doing to that guy.
You will be undermining the spirit of that amendment, even if you find some way around it. And to those
Can the American people, if the American people, with the mechanisms we have, put Trump back in office, are the American people tearing up the Constitution? Would that be tearing up?
Well,
would the American people be going against the spirit of the Constitution, ma'am?
I think.
And you see what he's trying to do. He says the American people want this. The American people do not want this. But let's say that the American people, for some reason, did want this. Let's say that that is the case. Right? We would have to go through a process in order to make that happen. There are laws that need to be followed and procedures that need to be followed in order to amend the Constitution. You think these people are going to go through that? They haven't to this day. It's been 9 months of them deliberately taking a chainsaw to the Constitution. And all these people that would talk about, oh, the Constitution and our rights and state rights and all of this shit, all of them that somehow subscribe to MAGA now have completely disregarded all of that. State rights only when it's convenient. The Constitution only when it's convenient. That's it. When it's not convenient, they just overlook it. And then they try to use this psychology of, well, the American people want this. If the American people want this, is it unconstitutional? It's a very sly snake, a very smart snake in the grass is Steve Bannon.
Actually, because I think what you will end up with is a populist justification for a quasi-dictatorship.
That's not true at all. Trump
That's what it sounds like.
It's not. Trump is a dictatorship. Did you just see the compromises he had to make on the big, beautiful bill? You see the compromises he has to do on everything, on accommodating Zelensky, on what President Trump. President Trump is nothing but a series of negotiations to kind of keep this thing rolling forward, where he's having trade-offs all the time.
Steve, you've just spent the last 20 minutes telling me we have to smash the other side. There's no room for debate. There's no room for compromise. We must smash them. And now you're telling me this is a negotiation. I mean,
Get him. You know, and we didn't play the previous 20 minutes, of course, but maybe we should in an episode moving forward. We're also going to do the Alex Jones Police State Watch Along series. I'm going to gather people together and we'll do it together. Like we'll sit here, we'll play that filth rag of a documentary that Alex Jones put together. Either one, there's 4 parts of it, so we'll play it and we'll talk about it, because we'll be able to depict his hypocrisy and how he's been instrumental in getting us to this point. That piece of crap, Alex Jones. In the last 20 minutes, he was talking a bunch of nonsense, and this presenter didn't forget it. And she brought it out and told him, hey, but you said X, Y, and Z. And that's what we need. That's what we need here. Let me play a little more of this before we move on to Steve Bannon in 2020. And that's interesting footage, to say the least.
No.
On his policy.
First off, the only way President Trump wins in 2028 and continues to stay in office is by the will of the American people. Okay? And the will of the American people is what the Constitution embodies. And so I think we're going to be in good hands there. We need to finish what we started. And President Trump is the instrument, a providential instrument to finish this job.
A few minutes ago, you talked about.
I remember reading some quotes from or some interviews by when Steve Bannon was interviewed some time ago. And he talked about using Donald Trump as an instrument. He is a chaos agent. Steve Bannon is aware of the occult and Madame Blavatsky and all of that. He was into all of that. And he talked about order out of chaos. And Trump is the chaos instrument, the chaos agent. And Bannon said that he was going to use the hammer that is Donald Trump, that wild horse that is Donald Trump, and tame it to a degree, or just maneuver it to do what it is that they've wanted to do. And ladies and gentlemen, we are here now. Project 2025 is more than 50%, or at least 50% completed at this point. There's a Project 2025 tracker. We should refer to that every week at some point and see where they're at. But they've made incredible gains in 8 months and 9 months. They're not playing any games. This is a document that, by all accounts, even on the right, they were lying about it and saying that it was too extreme. This is what Donald Trump said. It's too extreme. He's like, I don't know anything about it. It's too extreme. I would, I wish them luck, but I don't know anything about it. Then he wins the election and he goes, oh, by the way, and since he won the election, 2024, that one wasn't rigged. He won that one, so it wasn't rigged. But 2020, he lost and it was rigged. He did nothing to fix anything after 2020, before 2020. He did nothing to fix anything. But he says that election was rigged. But, hey, the Democrats were in power from 20 to 2024. He still won the election. And of course, no rigging at that point. It's not that one was good. It was too big to rig, which is a bunch of bullshit because it was one of the closest elections in the history of this country. But that's what he says. It was too big to rig. They couldn't rig it because I won by so much. I won by the biggest margins. I won. So it was too big to rig. But 2020, since he lost, and we're gonna get into that too. They seek to stay in power. They do not want to let it go. They don't want to let it go, people. Let's see. Hold on. We got 73 people watching right now. 67 on my X and 6 people over at the YouTube channel. I don't know who you are, but God bless you. Thank you for watching over there. We're gonna build it together. Help me get to 100 subs. And I want to see 10 people watching there next week. I will take it. As we build this channel. Hopefully we get to do that. Dustin Helms is in the chat. What is going on? We've read the documents is in the chat. What is going on with you? How are you? I'm running 2 YouTube streams. How the hell did that happen? Man, I don't know, bro. I only have one up here. I'll believe you. Technology isn't my friend. We'll figure it out. Karen Carpenter, greetings and blessings to you. How are you? Love to see you. Ashley, what's going on, Ash? How are you? Thank you for being here. Let's see who else we got. Those are the repeat offenders over in the chat. Rocky USA, what's up? I do need a personal assistant. I absolutely do, Rocky. I ain't got the money to pay nobody, though. I can't pay anyone. And I'm pretty tough to deal with. I'm all over the place, so if I get a personal assistant, it's a tough job. Hold on. Yeah. Hold on for a second. Let me see what else is up here before we continue. Twisted Communicate. What's up, Twisted, my guy? How are you? Thank you for watching as per normal. And everybody on X, what is up? I'm not broadcasting over on Tony's X anymore, and currently I'm not broadcasting on Ground Zero Plus. I don't know if I'll be doing that anymore. But it is what it is. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad that you are here with me, 77 strong right now as the hour progresses. Thank you. We're at seven people on my double streams on YouTube. What's up? All right. So a little bit more Bannon, guys. We got to do it. We have to. We have to show you more Steve Bannon. I am sorry. I apologize. I apologize ahead of time. Hold on for a second. Let me see. I'm trying to find the other clip, and I think this is it. Hold on. Yeah. This is it. Listen to Steve Bannon in 2020. This is an audio clip that was leaked, and we've played it before, but it bears repeating. People forget. People don't know. So it's good to rehash some of this stuff so you guys can see that this is nothing new. They seek to do this, and nothing's going to stop them from at least attempting to carry this out. Let's listen to this leaked audio. This is before 2020, before the 2020 election. Steve Bannon describing what their objectives are and what their techniques will be in the event that they lose an election.
And what Trump's going to do is just declare victory, right? He's going to declare victory. But that doesn't mean he's the winner. He's just going to say he's the winner.
I had to take a swig of water there for the working man. We got to play that again. I mean, that was just a part of the clip, and we'll play the full clip. But we got to play that again. Listen to what he said. This is before the 2020 election, and people still refuse to let go of the narrative that Donald Trump had the 2020 election stolen from him. They have zero proof of it. Maybe some semblance of anomalies or circumstantial evidence, but they refuse to let go of it. Although Steve Bannon already told you openly what they were going to do. And this is before the election. Let's play it again.
Do is just declare victory.
Here we go.
And what Trump's going to do is just declare victory, right? He's going to declare victory. But that doesn't mean he's the winner. He's just going to say he's the winner.
He's just going to declare victory. He's just going to declare victory. That doesn't mean he's the winner. He's just going to say it. Oh my God. Oh my God. You know what it is, man? It gives me chills because it's the anatomy of the conspiracy theory unfolding in front of our faces. They're not being secretive about it. They seek to conspire to take over an election, to undermine the results of an election. And what's most amazing about it is the conspiracy theory community, the alt media, went along with it when they were the ones that were screaming about this for years and years and years before. And they were saying, oh, elections are illegitimate. Now this guy is telling you what he's doing, and nobody wants to talk about it. Let's rewind it one more time and watch it, and then we'll continue watching the entire clip.
Trump's going to do is just declare victory, right? He's going to declare victory. But that doesn't mean he's the winner. He's just going to say he's the winner. The Democrats, more of our people vote early that count. Theirs voted mail. And so they're going to have a natural disadvantage, and Trump's going to take advantage of it. That's our strategy. He's going to declare himself a winner. So when you wake up Wednesday morning, it's going to be a firestorm. We're going to have Antifa crazy, the media crazy, the courts are crazy. And Trump's gonna be sitting there mocking, tweeting shit out. You lose. I'm the winner. I'm the king. And he'll be all over. He'll be going, "Where's Hunter? Is Hunter on a crack pipe?" I mean, no, he'll be, because then it doesn't matter. Remember, here's the thing. After that, Trump never has to go to a voter again. He's gonna fire Wray, the FBI director, and fire the he's gonna say, "Fuck you." How about that? Because he's never gonna. He's done his last election. Oh, he's gonna be off the chain. He's gonna be crazy. Also, if Trump is losing by 10 or 11 o'clock at night, it's going to be even crazier. Because he's going to sit right there and say they stole it.
Agree.
I'm directing the Attorney General to shut down all ballot places in all 50 states. It's going to be no. He's not going out easy. Trump.
This is in 2020, guys. This is in 2020. Do you think he's going to leave office willingly in 2028? Come on. Come on. It's time. It's time to take the cloth from your eyes, man. Put on your spectacles right now. Put on your glasses. You got to see what's going on here. How many times and how many ways is it going to tell you? There's a lot of things in this clip that we need to analyze, and I'm going to go back and we're going to play them piece by piece. Maybe not so much. How much time we got? Damn, 20 minutes. And I do want to get to a couple of other things, and I'll bring this up when Jeremy comes on and we can talk about it. But damn it, he is telling you. So if you choose to not believe it at this point, that's completely on you. And I understand how this works. It's hard for people to snap out of it. You got to hit the ice. The Titanic has to hit the iceberg. And once you hit the iceberg, then you realize, oh shit, I'm in trouble. It's too late at that point. For some people, it gets to that point. You have to be slapped in the face a few times. Figuratively, sometimes literally. I don't know. But the journey is different for everyone. And I understand that. But this is urgent. We don't have time. It's time to snap out of it. I'm trying to figuratively slap you in the face with this. And look at what Steve Bannon is telling me. We are going to claim victory regardless. Is just what we're going to do. If we're down by 10 points, we're just going to say they cheated. He's not saying that they're rigging the election. He's saying the election is on the up and up. We are down by 10. We are going to take the position, by we meaning Steve Bannon, Donald Trump, Roger Stone, Alex Jones, Ali Alexander, Owen Schroyer, any of these fools that seek to lie to the American people. They're going to take the position that Donald Trump has won the election, led by Donald Trump. He will never admit defeat. Ever, ever, ever. It's always rigged when he loses. Always. You think he's going to leave in 2028? Come on. All right, hold on. Let's play some more of this. Give me a second, guys. All right, here we go. There goes Golem, a.k.a. Steve Bannon. He really looks like Golem. I mean, he looks like something. He looks like he had the ring of power for a little bit too long and it corrupted his soul. Look at this guy, bro. Holy crap. Man, imagine waking up to that in the morning. Holy Jesus. If there's ever a case for demonic possession, of course, with the exception of Caroline Levitt, that's number one demonic possession right there. I mean, if you want to prove to me that demonic possession is a thing, Caroline Levitt would be exhibit A. But exhibit B would have to be Steve Bannon. Look at this picture of Steve Bannon. My gosh. All right, let's go through this.
Say he's the winner. The Democrats, more of our people vote early that count. Theirs voted mail.
That's important. That is very important. Let's go back.
Early that count. Theirs voted. People vote. Democrats, more of our people vote early that count. Theirs voted mail.
He is legitimizing the by mail process of voting here, which is something that is challenged by the alternative right, by the far right, right? They were like, oh, this is mail-in ballots that caused the election to be rigged, right? They rigged it that way. I remember Steve Puchinik going on InfoWars and talking a bunch of bullshit about ballots coming in from China, and they knew they were coming in from China because the papers was made out of bamboo. He literally said that shit. People believe what they want to believe. But here is Steve Bannon lending legitimacy to the process. He's saying that Democrats vote more by mail and Republicans vote early. And that's why the Democrats will be at a disadvantage, because when you wake up in the morning at 2020 or any election, right? You wake up in the morning, but in particular 2020, when you wake up in the morning, Trump will be ahead. And Trump can take advantage of that and say, look, I am winning, and now they are cheating when all the other ballots are counted. Steve Bannon is not saying that the process is rigged. He is telling you that it's a legitimate process and they will take advantage of it because of the optics. That is exactly what he's telling you this. Golem is telling you this. Oh, my precious. Look at him. Look at Golem. He's looking into your soul. He's saying you are a low information voter and he's going to take advantage of you. My gosh.
So they're going to have a natural disadvantage and Trump's going to take advantage of it. That's our strategy. He's going to turn himself a winner. So when you wake up Wednesday morning, it's going to be a firestorm.
Listen, he just said it. It's not me saying it. He just said it. I don't know. I'm passionate about this because the evidence is clear as day. The evidence is clear as day. And yet people refuse to look at the evidence objectively. And that's why I'm so fascinated by the psychological warfare that it's gone on. I'm so fascinated by social media and what it's been able to do to the minds of Americans. Stepping back and just looking at it, I'm like, my gosh. People refuse to acknowledge reality if it doesn't fit their world narrative.
Antifa are crazy, the media crazy, the courts are crazy, and Trump's gonna be sitting there mocking, tweeting shit out. You lose. I'm the winner. I'm the king.
Sound familiar? I'm the winner. I'm the king. This orange monster is currently making monuments to himself in Washington, D.C. The Arc de Trump that he's going to make in front of Arlington Cemetery. And of course, the new ballroom. He's destroyed the east wing of the White House. That looks great. That looks amazing. Everybody voted for that, right? Everybody voted for that. Destroyed the east wing of the White House. And they're creating the Trump ballroom. He said he was going to name it after himself, but now there are people online that are saying they need to name it after Charlie Kirk. Let's see if Alex Jones, let's see if Donald Trump actually listens to that, because the problem is he wants to name it after himself, right? And we all know Donald picks himself over anybody. So let's see what the optics are with that, and maybe he throws a bone to Turning Point USA, but he wants to name it after himself. The king of America, the king of the world. Steve Bannon is telling you this. Before the 2020 election, he's telling you exactly what they meant to do. And although he wasn't able to stay in power, mainly because some of the people that he had around him weren't sycophants to the degree that they are now. There's a reason Mike Pence is not the vice president of the United States this time around. Although they weren't able to remain in power in 2020, they were able to infiltrate the minds and the souls of many Americans, planting false seeds about what happened in the election of 2020. This is mind control. This is fifth generation warfare. To all my conspiracy theorist friends, this is a real conspiracy. Sink your teeth into it. Research it. Have it for dinner. We need that. Don't go chasing the false narratives that they want you to chase. It's a waste of time. And we don't have time.
And he'll be all over. He'll be going, where's Hunter? Is Hunter on a crack pipe? I mean, no, he'll be, because then it doesn't matter. Remember, here's the thing. After then, Trump never has to go to a voter again. He's going to fire Wray, the FBI director, and fire the he's going to say, fuck.
He never has to go to a voter again. You remember now, this is another thing that was said by Donald Trump leading up to the 2024 election. You will never have to vote again. Even I, even I thought that was him just talking about that's just Trump just saying dumb Trump shit. And that's no excuse. But even I thought that. But now we see it. They don't intend to go back to the voters. They don't intend to have any type of elections. And if they do have any elections, they are going to rig them, or at least they're going to try. 2026, the midterms, is our last shot at this, in my opinion. It is our last shot to remain on life support, because that's not even the end of it. If we are going to remain on life support and have a shot at living to fight another day, the 2026 elections need to go counter Trump. That's just the end of it. So what time is it? All right, we got 10 minutes before 8 o'clock. Time flies when you are having fun. We will come back to this clip. There's a lot more to take apart, but I hope that you were able to gain something out of this. This is him telling you exactly what they were going to do, what the game plan was. Let me play Roger Stone. We're going to get Jeremy's thoughts on this as well. I want to play Roger Stone for you guys before Jeremy comes around, but even though we're going to get his thoughts on it. But let me play Roger Stone for you. And Roger Stone, remember, he's a Richard Nixon sycophant. And they did some of this with Nixon. He was around and he was instrumental in that administration as well. There's a lot of carryover from the Nixon administration to the Trump regime. All right, let's look at this. Here's Joy Reid.
Is documentary footage from Trump's former advisor and longtime friend Roger Stone, filmed by Danish filmmakers in the months leading up to the attack on the Capitol. That includes a clip where Stone seemingly predicts 4 months before the election that they would never accept the results if they lost.
What they're assuming is that the election will be normal. The election will not be normal. Oh, these are the California results? Sorry, we're not accepting them. We're challenging them in court. If the electors show up at the Electoral College, armed guards will throw them out. I'm the president. You. You're not stealing Florida. You're not stealing Ohio. I'm challenging all of it. And the judges we're going to are judges I appointed. You.
Sound familiar? Does that sound familiar to you? Stop covering your ears. Listen to what's going on here. Hold on. We're going to play it again.
What they're assuming is that the election will be normal. The election will not be normal.
What they're assuming is the election will be normal. The election will not be normal. And it was not, and it is not, and they will not be normal. Because somehow we let this piece of shit back into the White House. And then I hear, oh, Billy, all you want to do is talk about Trump. What the fuck else would you like me to talk about? My gosh. He's telling you, this is not normal. People want to say, oh, this happened before. No, this is not normal. What is going on here is not normal. But they seek to normalize it. Even the mainstream media is doing an awful job at accurately describing what is going on in this country at this time. This is for 2020, guys. Roger Stone saying we're going to challenge here are the results for California. Well, Donald Trump didn't win California. Well, we're going to challenge that. And they're going to say, well, you're not going to steal it from us. But actually, you legitimately lost. Nope. We don't accept those results. We don't accept them. That's what we have to look forward to in 2028. And maybe in 2026. God, I hope not. But 2028, you could bank it. They're not going to accept the results of the election if he loses. They're just not going to accept it. And remember, his approval rating right now is at a 37. It's one of the lowest, if not the lowest, approval rating in recent presidential polling. He is not liked. His policies are not liked. Would it be hard to believe that the man is going to lose an election? Americans had some type of fog over them for the 2024 election. And they forgot what this idiot did in his first term. And they were like, all right, let's give him another shot. But now they're seeing, oh man, that was a mistake. The farmers are like, damn, maybe we shouldn't have done that. You go to your supermarket, you're spending a ton of money. You're spending a ton of money. What happened to the prices will go down the next day? What happened to the president of peace? Starting wars in Venezuela, and we're going to talk about that in the second hour. Killing people, murder in the high seas. Murder. It's all good, though. It's not a problem. This is normal. This is normal. It's happened before. This is normal.
That includes a clip where Stone seemingly predicts 4 months before the election that they would never accept the results if they lost.
What they're assuming is that the election will be normal. The election will not be normal. Oh, these are the California results? Sorry, we're not accepting them. We're challenging them in court. If the electors show up at the Electoral College, armed guards will throw them out. I'm the president. You. You're not stealing Florida. You're not stealing Ohio. I'm challenging all of it. And the judges we're going to are judges I appointed. You. You're not stealing the election.
And the judges that are going to overlook this stuff are judges that I appointed. Any judge that has ruled against Donald Trump, they've been saying that they are activist Democrat judges. This is why. This is the game plan. This is why they are activist Democrat judges. Man. But yet we're here. Regardless of all the information, regardless of these people openly telling you that they conspire to take over, we are here. There is, if you still support Donald Trump at this time, you are a fascist. If you still support Donald Trump at this time, you are anti-American. You are either anti-American or you do not understand what America is about. It's one of the two. You can go ahead and choose. Roger Stone didn't predict the future. Roger Stone was telling you the game plan. That's it. It's like he's seemingly predicting the future. No, he wasn't predicting the future. He was telling you exactly what they were going to do because they devised the game plan. Ivan Ranklin, go look up that name. He was the guy responsible for coming up with the pseudo theory. I mean, the pseudo law, right? Or exploiting a law or making up shit. I mean, you pick that Mike Pence was able to overturn the election. That was Ivan Ranklin that came up with that. He said, this is what we're going to do. And that way you send Mike Pence on January 6th and he says he's not ratifying the election. And that's it. That's the end of it. Of course, that's not the way things work, but that's what that was part of the game plan. And you will see more of that. And Steve Bannon told you, and Roger Stone told you. Alex Jones is more of a outright liar. He just lies for clicks. So, he will flip it, but he's not going to openly tell you the process. These guys are openly telling you the process. They're openly telling you what they choose to do, what they're going to do, how they're going to go about things. And then they went after low information voters to do it. And this is something that Steve Bannon says often. The low information voter, the low information voter, the low information voter. These are the guys we went after. In 2022, Steve Bannon was in a war, with Joe Rogan, interestingly enough. He was in a war with Joe Rogan, and he was saying that, because Rogan was playing that game and he refused to have Donald Trump on the show. He was like, I don't know if I want to have him on my show. Steve Bannon was pissed, and Steve Bannon was like, we don't need your show. And the people on your show are low information voters, insulting the millions and millions of people that listened to that show in 2022. But once they got the opportunity to go on that show, that very show that they were insulting 2 years prior, once they got the opportunity to go on, they took it. Why? Because they think you're stupid as fuck. And this is what they said. Don't believe me, huh? You don't believe me. Well, luckily I brought receipts. Jeremy's backstage. I see him. I'm about to bring him in. Actually, let me bring in Jeremy right now so he can commentate on a little bit of this. Mr. Jeremy Roshka Show. Always a pleasure. Hold on. Let me take this off and then I'll put it back on. How are you, buddy?
Doing well. Good to see you this Sunday evening, Billy. Thanks for having me.
Man, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you. You know how I love what you do, your work and everything else, man. We're streaming on YouTube for the first time. We have nobody watching over there, but I don't even know how to.
I was watching over there.
Well, I guess not nobody. We have what is it? What do we got here live right now? We got 129 live. We're over on X. People are watching there, and 4 people on the Gorilla Underground YouTube channel. We have about 40 subscribers. Help us get to 100. We're building. We're building here. So many things I want to talk to you about. I was in the middle of discussing Steve Bannon saying that Donald Trump will run in 2028 and win, and that he will have a third term. I was showing Steve Bannon before the 2020 election giving. Well, you were watching, so you know what I did. And Roger Stone, talking about the techniques that they will use to impose their will on the American people and pretty much present an alternate reality to people about what was actually going on. Regardless of what actually did go on, this was the strategy that they were going to take. I'm going to play a clip real quick, and then we'll get into ICE, and we'll get into the Israel situation. The Prince of Peace, Donald J. Trump, who has solved at least 10 wars. At least 10. He probably did more than that, Jeremy, but there's at least 10 that he deserves this Nobel Peace Prize, and I'm not even kidding. He'll probably get it next year.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean much to me or to anyone that's been paying attention to who's getting this stuff. But anyway, let me play this clip real quick, Jeremy, and we'll go from there of Steve Bannon talking about people on Joe Rogan's show. Let me see. Come on. Let me see. What's going on here?
Fact, just like the parents are. Steve Cortez. And Spotify, and you got Joe Rogan over there trash talking Trump. Oh, I don't want to give Trump any platform. But no offense, he doesn't need your platform. He doesn't need your low information voters. Okay. Trump deals with high information people.
Let's go back.
He doesn't need your platform. He doesn't need your low information voters. Okay. Trump deals with high information people.
One time.
Trump any platform. But no offense, he doesn't need your platform. He doesn't need your low information voters. Okay? Trump deals.
What's up, Jeremy? Why you laughing? What's up? What's going on? Give me your thoughts.
Trump didn't stop the war between Bannon and Rogan, I guess, but
No,
well, yeah, I guess that got eventually squashed, actually, right? Trump went on there. Yeah, but it is interesting the so-called irony. It's not irony because you explained exactly what they do. That they actually will, try to psychologically prepare you for what's going to happen by saying the opposite, basically, blaming others for what they're going to do. And so in this case, it was well known that Trump always talked about my people are the low information voters. He proclaimed that. He's like, those are my people. I'm going to stand up for them in many ways.
Yeah.
But Bannon's not wrong. They're sort of the Rogan sphere are like the danger of like sort of heading toward upper mid IQ, thinking that they're genius types. So they're sort of like lower information voters than they really are.
Oh, absolutely. Bannon knows,
and they think they are. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I think you're 100% right. Bannon knows exactly what he's doing. And since then, I listen to the War Room because I say it often. I'm a glutton for punishment, and sometimes I have to stop because it's too much, right? So I fall back, and like lately, I haven't listened to it for about a month or so. But I need to listen to this stuff. I need to figure out I need to be up on what's going on. So I listen to Bannon, and he often says, what we did for the 2024 election, amongst other things, is that we went for the low information voter and the low propensity voter. These are the people we went after. And he tries to treat it with kid gloves or pacify it by saying, we know that you're busy. We know it's just low information. That doesn't mean you're stupid. But look at this clip. Very different. We don't need your low information voters. We deal with high information people. So what do they think of you? And as soon as he was able to smuggle his way in to the Joe Rogan sphere, they took that real quick. And Joe Rogan is a piece of crap for it, in my opinion, Jeremy. Letting this guy in, giving him an endorsement, they took full advantage of the quote unquote low information voter. And that's part of the reason why we are here right now. In my opinion, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Yours. Go ahead, sir.
No, I agree with you very much so. And remember that like it's even worse in a certain way than what Bannon has been caught on recording, as you played right before 2020. I think it's the case that whenever Trump is yelling election fraud or they stole the election from me, it's very likely, especially when you line it up with actual data, that they actually, the predicate was that they were going to try to steal the election. Right. And so, and it's very interesting where now there's a group called the Election Truth Alliance, who's been like actually going after the data and parsing the data and actually working with international experts on voting integrity. And of course, like a lot of this does come down to machine rigging and all that, which is why they were so opposed to mail-in ballots. The danger of mail-in ballots is that they will be counted as proper because there's a paper trail.
I agree. Jeremy, give me a second, buddy. There is some static coming from your end, I think.
Oh.
I don't know if it's coming from mine also. Let me know in the chat if you hear the static on my end, because then that would mean it's me, and that shit happens to me all the time. But I definitely hear it from you.
Okay.
Let me see. Talk to me.
All right. How does this sound right here? I can turn down my mic a little bit, maybe. How about that? Is that better?
No, it's still there. Maybe it's a connection thing. I don't know. You can
check 1 2.
Yeah, it's you apparently. Let me see. Just you can I know, baby, I hear you. You can dip out of it if you wish. I mean, dip out of the stream and come back in. Maybe that makes a difference sometimes.
All right, let me see if I can get a better connection coming back in.
Appreciate you, buddy.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. So I mean, just to carry on, man, and it sucks that that Jeremy had to go. He'll be back, Lord willing. I really respect Jeremy. He's fantastic at what he does. Listen, they think you're freaking stupid. They think you're stupid, and that's why they've been able to get to where they get, saying what they're saying, doing what they're doing. We can't subscribe to this stuff anymore. We can't lend our support to them. We need to hold them accountable for what it is that they say and what it is that they do. We need to pay attention. It's dope that there is entertainment, right? The Super Bowl. I watch WWE sometimes. I'm sorry, please don't judge me. You know, I watch 90 Day Fiance to get my mind off of this shit, you know? But we need to watch what's going on. We need to pay attention because they're openly telling us what they're doing. And if you say it's not happening, you're not paying attention. That's not a knock. I just need people to pay attention. I need to pay attention. We need to pay attention. We need to do it together. He's telling you that he thinks you're freaking stupid. Anybody that listened to Joe Rogan and voted for Donald Trump as a result of Joe Rogan's endorsement, he's telling you that he thinks you're stupid. And this goes for the entire brosphere or these manosphere podcasters, Theo Vaughn and Andrew Schultz. They think you are dumb. Their words, not mine. Jeremy's back. Talk to me, Jeremy. Can you hear me, buddy?
I can hear you.
All right, that sounds a bit better. Let's do it. Go
Okay.
ahead, bud. Take over. The stage is yours. Thank you.
Okay, for sure. So I do think this where you've been going in terms of sussing out the severity of this moment while talking about, we have to not forget how we actually got here. Right. For example, like this whole thing that we're talking about looking at 2024, right, and the silence of all of the Democrats. I can't think of a single Democrat who has actually raised the question of election fraud. Going back to 2016, we had Trump talking about how the reason why he lost the popular vote was because 3 million illegals voted, right? And that nothing of that sort has ever been proven because it was a lie. It was a falsehood. Chris Kobach was tasked to go run the so-called election integrity panel. Kobach here in Kansas actually tried to look for mass voter fraud and found just a sprinkling of it. And in fact, on the radio the other day on the way to the farm to pick up milk, I actually heard that there had been an older voter, woman who had just been got 6 months in jail for doing voter fraud. I can't remember if it was Kansas or Missouri, because she actually used her dead relatives voting status to vote twice. Who did she vote for? Donald Trump. So almost every time we see actual voter fraud, which is a negligible thing, it's never been proven. I mean, I'm not even sure we've even maybe there's a handful of like undocumented immigrants voting. I've never seen it. And so, almost every single time it actually comes out, it seems to actually be these guys who have shown their willingness to cheat. And so I think it's not implausible. Actually, I think it's very likely that they actually cheated in 3 elections, presidential elections in a row. They tried to do it in 2020, but it very likely was the mail-in ballots that were their problem. Right. And if you go look at Election Integrity Alliance right now, a lot of their analysis is coming down a lot to Pennsylvania, which is where a lot of the questions of paper ballots and mail-in voting, that was part of the issue back in 2020. So I think that we should actually continue to press this issue. Obviously, we're not, quote unquote, MAGA. We're not going to storm the Capitol based on falsehoods fed to us by our cult leader. We don't have a cult leader. You know, we want to work on truth, the best principles of the potential American system, a constitutional republic, a democratically invested public that is educated to the facts and all of that. But I do think that we should press this issue. So it's the same thing with Epstein, you know, and, you know, some of us, you know, we've been talking about this, Billy, you know, you and I in our circles for the entire decade of the Trump phenomenon, that Trump brought in Epstein as an attack vector. He was the first one in during the 2016 elections, and he, you know, attacked Clinton and said it was going to be a big problem because of the Lolita Express and the island. Yeah. And we all saw, oh, he's pointing away from the Les Wexner brownstone that was then given to Epstein in Manhattan, where Trump and Epstein had been credibly accused of raping underage, you know, girl in 1994. So in a similar kind of fashion, that indicated to me that this was an Achilles heel of Donald Trump, which is now just in the last months, I think, shown. Almost everybody now knows where is the Epstein list. It's beginning to come down to people wanting to look for Occam's razor for why Trump is so finicky around it. And more information comes out. And yeah, it's because Trump is totally implicated in it. So this question of elections, Steve Bannon trying to press for some kind of transcending the constitutional question of a third term for Donald Trump, I would say might suggest that this is another one of their Achilles heels that we need to pursue, which is election fraud, very likely done right out of their circles.
You know, man, and that's, wow, that's a hell of a topic. I was discussing this with my friend Twisted. What's up, Twisted? And I've discussed this with a mutual friend, John Brissom, you know, about the possibility of the election being rigged here in 2024 on behalf of Donald Trump. And the reason it's not being pressed as much as maybe it should be is because Democrats, people that side on the left, are gun shy about it. Because it's the far right and the MAGA psychological warfare operators that reside in social media. You know, they've been very effective at putting forth their message and planting the seeds in the minds of people. And it's created a buffer almost of sorts, saying that Democrats shouldn't go after these claims because it will make them like MAGA. You know, they will be de facto doing what MAGA did. You know, MAGA did it with almost zero evidence, right? There's nothing there, right? But even if there is sufficient evidence to show that Donald Trump and Elon Musk, because Elon Musk has openly said it, you know, I mean, you could say he was misspeaking, but that might be mental gymnastics. He literally said that they rigged the election. We can get the clip and play it at some point. But Democrats are afraid to chase that because of the accusations that they will ultimately face from the right. Give me your thoughts.
I think that's true, but it's only part of the truth, I think, because I think it's definitely true in terms of why there was such a finicky aspect, especially amongst the grassroots of the Democratic Party in terms of 2024, of the mantra that had been pushed by both parties of, you know, free and fair elections up until the 2020 elections, when MAGA went all out on a fraudulent election, where I look for evidence of that, you know, because, you know, I'd been investigating election integrity for a while. I had actually hosted maybe a couple of the only preparation panels for the dangers of election fraud in the run-up to 2020. So I was looking for it across the spectrum, and then every single fact I tried to check out, it looked to me like it was all a hoax or it was overblown, but it was definitely it was deceptive. And so that is one piece of it. I think you're correct that there's a finicky aspect because they don't want to be associated with people who are trying to undermine the democratic process. They don't want to be associated. Well, that's what MAGA does. That's how January 6th comes about. But this is a part of a larger piece of what the Trump MAGA operation at the Antidote, Greg McCarran and I titled, the 2016 operation as 11-9 to indicate that this was a long-running, long-standing, deep political operation that was being worked upon. And so one of the things that they did in terms of the clean break culture war dynamics or the political warfare dynamics of this was to weaponize what is then called conspiracy theory, deep politics. Bannon himself was one of the key guilty ones who tried to dumb down and weaponize even the word deep state. Take it out of the realm of the more academic approach, like Peter Dale Scott, talking about that this word actually has meaning, conceptual value, that the deep state is not the administrative state. It's not one of the parties. It's actually the merger or the conjunction of the covert arm of the national security apparatus, usually on the top, and then the mob economy, the gangsters, the organized crime syndicate, usually on the bottom half. And so when Trump came in that first time, my original instinct was that the deep state in the United States had actually been totally turned on its head to some extent, and that the mob underbelly had actually really ascended directly to power in the most massive way ever. Now, that is not to discount that there were previous presidents, maybe all of them to some extent, who had these relationships with organized crime. They all did, pretty much, to different extent. But this was the first time that I saw that in an American context, the underworld had actually vaulted to the top of the executive branch. And so my final point to this, the reason that I think it's the Democrats being finicky by not wanting to be associated with MAGA is only part of it, is that this kind of phenomenon goes way back before the emergence of MAGA and Donald Trump. And we saw this all of the 21st century in American electoral politics at the national level. We see these indicators. The 2000 election was very likely stolen. I mean, it was de facto sort of stolen at the Supreme Court level.
Roger Stone was involved in that as well. Roger Stone was intimately involved with that. We can get on that. Listen, Jeremy, your microphone is doing it again.
Oh no.
It's cool. Like I think it's a StreamYard issue maybe in your connection with StreamYard. We're gonna take a quick break. Jeremy, try to deal with it if you can, and then we'll come back. All right, buddy.
Okay.
Appreciate you. You were on a roll there. We'll be right back, everybody. Stay tuned. We got more with Jeremy, and we have another guest on the third hour. All right. Hold on for a second. We're gonna play some music to keep you guys entertained while we sort this out. We appreciate all of you. It's the Gorilla Underground. By chance, his girlfriend came across a needle and soon she did the same. At home, there are 17-year-old boys and their idea of fun is being in a gang called the Disciples High on Crack, told them to machine gun. Church killed everyone inside. You turn on the telly and every other story is telling you somebody died. Sister could have been because she can't afford to feel I was sending people to the moon. In September, my cousin tried people for the very first time, and now he's doing horse. What's going on, everybody? It's the Gorilla Underground. Give me a second so you guys can see me again. My name is Billy Ray Valentine. Thank you for tuning in. We have 150 people watching right now. We have people on X, and there are some people over on the YouTube channel. We really appreciate you. We're going to try to drop the link in here before the end of the broadcast, maybe in the third hour. Jeremy's back. I see him backstage. Let's see if we can get this to happen. What's up, buddy?
Not much. How do I sound?
Sound fantastic, sir.
All right.
Yeah, man. All the stuff you were laying out is very important, man. And I want people to hear it as clearly as possible. You were talking about the Florida election. I mean, Florida in 2000.
Yeah, and you pointed out that Roger Stone was part of that.
Right.
And that's very true. And you know who else is part of that is, I believe, 3 of our Supreme Court justices, including the Chief Justice Roberts. They were all part of that 2000 Bush team in terms of the lawfare of all of that. So this goes way back. And so I guess my point is that at almost every step along the way, that sometimes the Democrats would make certain kinds of protests, but it would usually publicly be mainly about voter suppression,
right?
Which is also a thing. Obviously, that's one of the reasons why the Trump people wanted to make mail-in ballots illegal. Basically, it was to suppress votes ultimately. But, you know, when it came up to 2000 and 2004, there were a few Democrats in 2004 who were actually trying to take the case about Ohio, and that there was very clearly organized election fraud that very likely swung the election to Bush from Kerry. And Kerry himself, who at that point would have been considered the leader of the Democratic Party, it came out a decade later on public radio that Kerry and his people themselves sort of had some knowledge, at least some awareness, that they had the election stolen from them. And more importantly, not from them, but from their voters, from the American voters. And they never even mentioned a public word about it until 10 years later. And so there's been this that's why I sort of consider the Democrats and the Republicans to be involved in some kind of RICO, organized criminal operation of some sort. And it's not just because they both have these deep ties to organized crime and the mobligarchs and all of that kind of thing, but also because that they are engaged in a seditious approach to American electoral democracy. This was not in the framing about having a party kind of system, especially a two-party system. And so they remain gamblers at a rigged table that are both at the very base level unwilling to actually expose the truth, other than when Donald Trump and Bannon and Stone come in to try to sort of turn over the table. Agreed
100. And it's part of something that I say quite often. I'm like, well, why are they? Because people are like, oh, well, they rigged the 2020 election. I'm like, why would they have to rig a system that's already rigged in so many different ways? So what you've laid out here is very important, man. And I haven't dabbled so much into it because of that issue that I laid out initially. Is like, I am, and I've been since 2020 open about my, I've openly critiqued the whole 2020 was a stolen election for Donald Trump openly, and people in the alt media can't come to terms with that. They just cannot, for whatever reason. Like they can't figure out how Donald Trump would have actually lost an election.
It's not clear to me how Donald Trump actually won an election yet.
And I would, leading up to 2020,
he's popular. I understand he's a popular, cultural figure. Yeah,
right. He's probably the most famous person on earth. That doesn't indicate popularity. It just he's known, right? But how he's at a 37% right now. In approval rating here in the United States. That's very, very low. But yes, there are a lot of people, the base, the MAGA base is strong, and there are a lot of them. And to them, he's more than popular. He is a godlike figure, and that's part of the Christian nationalism. And I think it's in large part what continues to push him in the forefront, right? And what's got him, part of what's got him elected, and I want to discuss that to a degree. Listen, it is 8:30. I have half an hour with you before I got to bring in somebody else. And hopefully we can pull this off. I asked Jeremy if he can join us once a month for a discussion. And he said he would. Let's see if we can make it happen. That we both we're busy. We got stuff to do. So I'd love for that to happen. And whenever you're ready to come on, I would always love to have you. And we should flesh out more of what you named the organization that's actively looking into it. I had read about it, but I didn't commit it to memory. What's the name of the organization?
I think it's called the Election Truth Alliance.
Mm-hmm, the Election Truth Alliance. No, I read about that. So yeah, I think that's what it is, and we'll talk about it and flesh it out a little more. I've been gun shy myself about going there, with this. But if the evidence points in that direction, we should look at it. Absolutely. You wanted to discuss ICE. I want to get that out. I want to talk about ICE. I do a show called America Unplugged on Saturdays with Don Jeffries and Tony Arterburn, and Don in particular says nothing is going on. He's like, nothing is happening throughout the United States. And it frustrates me to no end, because I'm like, are you paying attention, to what's going on with ICE, the secret police, masked men running around, intimidating American citizens, at times arresting American citizens. You are guilty before proven innocent. At this point, if you are walking the streets of the United States, in particular in blue cities, but it's all over, right? It's not just for blue cities. It's coming to you. It's going to knock on your door. What did you want to talk about concerning ICE, sir?
Yeah. Exactly that. And that there is something big underneath all of this. And yes, it's been targeted on blue states, blue cities, and that's for political reasons largely, maybe not just, but that's largely right. Why it's been done like that. But underneath all of this is of course, the standard Trump pump and dump slop kind of op, where as they are undermining some of the basic constitutional structures of the country for what they proclaim to be a popular issue, let's say, in terms of the way they portrayed this was violent, criminal, undocumented immigrants, basically, was the focus on this. And that is a pretty consensus issue in many ways for most Americans. Why not? Why not target folks who are, doing violence, right? But what's really underneath all of this is, first of all, there's a big money-making operation going on. We saw this right as Trump 2 was coming in. There were a lot of people trying to get up to the trough to actually get some of these contracts to set up the camps, the detention centers, and all of that. But underneath all of this, we have to go back to remember what ICE actually is, right? This is a reformation, I would say a seditious transcending, really, of our prior American system that had problems, obviously. But after 9/11, then we get this entirely new Department of Homeland Security, right? And that's what ICE sits under right now. And it's sort of wild to me watching even some of the sort of more alt-right emergent Trump critics, like people like Nick Fuentes or people like that, who, waited to the last moment to pull their electoral support from Donald Trump in 2024. Even after Donald Trump said he doesn't need you to vote. You remember he also, in addition to saying you'll never have to vote again, the first part of that was saying, I don't really need your vote this time. And was that also sort of guilty conscience bubbling up in terms of the whole Musk-Trump Bannon operation? Very likely, I think. But what we saw after September 11th was this total attempt to, I think, seditiously undermine the country by installing this DHS system. Because remember what came along with that. Tons of Israeli technology, a lot of Israeli oversight into this emergent new department, but also the emergence of what we now know as the fusion centers all around the country. And the way that they talked about it at the time was an idea of they called it a harmonization of the system. And this was all based upon the predicate, I think, of the falsehood of that 9/11 came because of intelligence sort of non-sharing amongst different entities at different scales. Now, they made it mainly about the CIA and FBI. Part of that was true at the level of the Patsy hijacker part of the operation. But at the higher level, this was all a fraud. And then it was used to then perpetrate this new seditious, I think, overthrow of it, basically implanting what would now then emerge as a domestic army, really. And that's what we're seeing. The big, beautiful so-called bill of Trump basically turned DHS into one of the biggest standing militaries on its own in the entire world. Okay. And now when you then package that with all of the the anti-First Amendment stuff that we've seen, especially in relationship to Israel-Palestine, the Gaza genocide, people speaking out against that in the United States over the last 2 years, and then post Charlie Kirk's assassination, where especially the Steve Miller wing of the Trump regime started escalating this idea of we're going to actually sort of go after the entire enemy within network, and you get into a very dangerous spot. And my last point, just going back to that, these alt-right people such as Nick Fuentes, who have proper criticisms around Trump in terms, especially around the Middle East and certain kinds of aggressive activity that he's waging internationally, they are actually saying, well, the problem is sort of similar to what you alluded to, that actually nothing is actually happening domestically, and definitely not enough is happening. Right. And so my reminder to them, and really to everybody, is that we have to look at the seditious root of this problem, really, which does go back to things like September 11th, false flag terrorism, and then a long-term attempt, I think, to actually create a domestic standing army, which we're now seeing in full blooming emergence.
I totally agree, brother. And you referenced Golem number 2, Stephen Miller. Yeah. And I keep this clip handy because it's very important. It's very dangerous what this guy said. This was before Charlie Kirk's assassination, and painting anybody other than MAGA as Antifa, and saying that Democrats are terrorists, domestic extremists, he said here. Let's play it.
Weekend. They're going to be shot and killed in Chicago. They haven't lifted a finger to solve the problem. They've fallen into this defund, dismantle, reimagine, Nobel insanity. And now Donald Trump wants to help, and they're mad at him?
Look, we discussed this last time I was on your show. The Democrat Party does not fight for, care about, or represent American citizens. It is an entity devoted exclusively to the defense of hardened criminals, gangbangers, and illegal alien killers and terrorists. The Democrat Party is not a political party. It is a domestic extremist organization. Look at Chicago.
It's a domestic extremist organization. Dr. Evil, or Mini-Me, just said that, and he meant it. And he uses events in order to get what he wants. I actually think he is more in charge of this country than Donald Trump is. I think he is. There's this scene in The Lord of the Rings when I think it's the king of Rohan. I forget from where, which king he was, but he was under some type of spell. And there was some dude next to him that was casting the spell and really manipulating him. And that's what I think about all the time when I see Stephen Miller. And I legit think it's elder abuse at this point, because Donald Trump, we can talk about his mental acuity at some point also. We should do that. But this is the guy controlling a lot of the policy that you see, definitely with ICE, but other domestic policies as far as invading the cities of the United States. I think it comes straight from him and has his fingerprints all over the pseudo law, the reinterpretation of laws that are on the books already. This is Stephen Miller. This is him. He is part of. He's one of the architects of this, without a doubt. So, I mean, they've laid this out already. They've communicated it, and this is part of my frustration, Jeremy. They are openly saying this, and people still grasp for some type of validation for their own thoughts, their own narratives, whatever makes them comfortable. I don't know what to do to snap people out of that. And I know I'm going off on something else, but I want to go back to Stephen Miller. You made reference to it, so I wanted to play this clip. Go ahead. Give me your thoughts on this.
I'm glad you did, because I think you're right that if there's a domestic czar in many ways, a sort of the chief operator, then in this second Trump regime, it's definitely Stephen Miller.
Right.
But a lot of this, it definitely also includes Trump. He knows where his bread is buttered. First of all, he has his own self-interest. He has his own kind of politics in the world. And what they're really doing is carrying out a much bigger, longer-term operation. So in the domestic context, the way that we described the 11/9 operation going back to 2016 was that it emerged domestically amongst a troika of highly seditious organizations, some of them which actually have very foreign backgrounds, or at least intersections. And those three are the Federalist Society, right? They're the ones, who have run the overtaking of the justice system and the judges and especially the Trump Supreme Court, right? Then you have the Heritage Foundation. This is where Russ Vought, who now is probably the most powerful, let's call him a deep state operator at this point, or at least the head of the administrative state at this point, is Russ Vought at the Office of Management and Budget. And he comes straight out of Heritage Foundation, Project 2025, that Trump tried to lie about and deceive about whether it even mattered, whether he even knew about it, sort of like he never knew Jeffrey Epstein or something like that. And then third, of course, the CNP, the Council for National Policy, which has been ramping up for a long, long time. And so this is actually the sort of institutional troika that's part of this macro seditious operation here in the country. And then last thing I wanted to say about Stephen Miller, I'm glad you played that clip, because then after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, when he came out publicly with this plan based on that kind of inflammatory rhetoric that you just played from him, basically saying that anyone who is maybe against the Trump regime is a domestic terrorist, right? And I'll just remind people again, the fact that they've ramped up ICE and DHS now under this idea of domestic terrorism, while also then ramping up the newly renamed Department of War in what they're saying is a war on drugs and sort of extrajudicial assassination of people on boats around Venezuela and all of that, is a reminder that all of these structures have been growing. And it was the sort of bipartisan RICO operation were all part of it in their own ways, from George Bush allowing 9/11 to happen at the very least, and then basically rolling out the clean break wars on the back of that. Obama then instituting the idea of the kill list, and we're not going to torture folks. We don't want to torture folks. Right. We're just going to assassinate them, including American citizens, right? So that was part of amping up all of this. And then of course Trump, then Biden and the Gaza genocide, and then Trump too. And the piece I wanted to point out is that after Charlie Kirk's assassination, Miller then came on, I think it was actually maybe MSNBC, and he was doing an interview, and it looked like it got cut off, like he got the word that he'd let something slip. And it was this idea of, we believe we have plenary power, right? Which is really at the sort of right at the top of what we've known for a couple of decades now as this idea of the unitary executive. that they want to turn the United States into some kind of executive autocracy or a corporatocracy as the model in many ways. And this is what they mean by plenary powers, that the executive ultimately has power to do whatever they want unless it can be shown that they can be stopped by any other power. And of course, what we saw in the Supreme Court ramp up to Trump 2 was the Supreme Court basically sort of retroactively casting back to saying that a president in any kind of official capacity, it has to be shown that there is, at the very least, there's some kind of thing that the president is doing that at the very least he believes is part of his public officialdom as a president, as an oath sworn president, but that anything there that's done under that kind of plenary power, unitary executive power, is ultimately unpunishable. It's sort of trans-constitutional, and it ultimately can never be held to account by the courts. Preemptively, it cannot be held to account by courts.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. I remember when they passed that ruling, I was like, oh my God, what's going on here? You know, it's giving them cover for a lot of things. And I want to ask you a couple of questions based on that. First off, I want to play a clip of Donald Trump. And I was going to save this for later, but you mentioned something about Obama, and he was talking about just outright killing people. Donald Trump has just done the same thing this week, and I thought it was something worth playing today. I was going to get to it at some point. I didn't mean to play it now, but since you mentioned Obama, we can talk about Trump talking about just killing people at the high seas. Hold on for a second.
And Mr. President, if you are declaring war against these cartels and Congress is likely to approve of that process, why not just ask for a declaration of war?
Well, I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay, we're going to kill them. You know, they're going to be like dead. Okay.
That was, epic. Right there, like we're gonna kill them, like dead. It's like I thought I was watching, an AI video, but I wasn't. It's real, and so this continues.
And to some point, he has a point to some extent. Like if he were making the case for himself, is like, yeah, we've been the war on drugs, especially then the amplification of the so-called war on terror, ultimately became the place where, it was recognized that the president had some kind of extrajudicial right to kill even American citizens anywhere around the world. And now the question of whether that would include in the post 9/11 so-called homeland has never quite been adjudicated properly. But I think we're heading into that realm now of where this begins to play out. But Trump's basically saying, look, he could have just said, look, Obama did it in terms of the war on terror. That was never really a declared war. There was a certain amount of partial power that was given by the Congress to the president to specifically go after the perpetrators and conspirators of 9/11 and any potentially involved parties to do that. And really, ultimately, we only had one Congresswoman, Barbara Lee, from Oakland, California, who voted against military response at the executive level in response to September 11th. And so over and over again, I just see that we have to root out the deception and the lies that are at the origins of a lot of these seditious, if not potentially treasonous, then blooming kind of operations that ultimately then come back, home to roost.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. We're at 181 strong. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We have more of a show for you. We got 15 minutes left, Jeremy. I want to talk about the president of peace. He brought peace to Israel. It's amazing. He brought peace to the Middle East. It's incredible. He did this, very quickly, very efficiently. I'm being sarcastic, of course. Just to put that out there. He made it seem like he solved this entire issue. It was a ceasefire, which hasn't even held up at this point. And I think the mainstream media is doing a very bad job at reporting that this stuff hasn't held up already. And I think that's by design. You can agree or disagree with me if you wish. I want your thoughts on it. I know this is your area of expertise, brother. What's up?
I think you're right in that if there were a place where the Democrats and Biden Harris morally deserve to lose the 2024 election,
it's on
which I don't think they actually did, like in terms of Election Truth Alliance and all that. But none of them have protested it publicly, so I guess they don't care whether they lost it for their voters or not. This was the area where they morally deserve to lose, but because of their open support for what was an obviously intended national genocide that the Netanyahu regime in Israel was pursuing in an alleged response to October 7th. Now, October 7th is another one of these kind of foundational events in many ways, similar in many ways to September 11th, where there is, and the same guy actually seems to have these major interests in both of these events, which is Netanyahu himself. The day after September 11th, Netanyahu was quoted in the New York Times as sort of blurting out that 9/11 was very good because it would then he sort of checked himself. Well, not very good, but it will generate immediate sympathy and it will cement the relationship between the United States and Israel. It was an idea of a relationship born in blood in many ways. And Netanyahu talked about that now the Americans are experiencing the hemorrhaging. And October 7th in many ways looks like Netanyahu's follow-up to September 11th. Where of course, everybody at this point knows that Netanyahu facilitated the backing of Hamas, at the very least, allegedly for an idea of trying to divide and conquer the political part of the Palestinian movement and interests from the West Bank and the remnants of the PLO and what they call the Palestinian Authority over there, and then Gaza, then geographically to the west, and Hamas, and because the long-term, rubric of the Israeli state from its very beginning and before was an idea of that they had to not negotiate politically, that they had to transcend any sort of asserted right of Palestinian nationhood. And so in order to do that, I believe that Netanyahu saw something like October 7th as the severe necessity to be able to do what he and many others at the highest levels of what's called the Israeli security state wanted to do, which was to finish the original displacement of Palestinians under cover of war, ethnic cleansing from, in many cases, what is now southern Israel. And that's where the large portion of the Palestinian people in Gaza who have been subjected to this genocidal, what's been called a war for 2 years now, come from. Their families, some of them actually are the surviving people of that age. And so Netanyahu had very intense reason to not only allow this to happen, and that's what the data pushes towards to us to look at, is that they basically had the intelligence, they knew some of the plans of Hamas, and basically every other single attempted assault by Hamas on October 7th, other than this one middle pathway that led right into the recently moved Psytrance rave, the Nova Rave there, was actually shut down. And in a very similar fashion to previous rounds between Netanyahu's regime and Hamas, Netanyahu, it looks like, worked at the very least, if not tasked, one of his most terrorist members of his government, Ben Gvir, to go incite in Jerusalem specifically. And in the immediate wake of that, then 2 battalions of Israeli soldiers were moved from the Gaza envelope away toward the West Bank. And that then not only created the sort of pretext for a security failure to happen, but it also actually did help the security failure happen. And then similar to September 11th, where there were planes, there were hijackers, Now, I believe that they were actually very likely hijacked. The hijackers were hijacked themselves by this very similar Israeli military intelligence cell that Netanyahu represents. And then that was the targets were made sure to be hit. But then all of it is then amplified in terms of death and destruction by things like Ground Zero, the very obvious demolition, very high-powered demolitions of the World Trade Center buildings. And we saw this in relationship to what we now know as the Mass Hannibal Directive on October 7th, where the Israeli military was actually tasked to sort of shoot up sort of willy-nilly whether people were Israelis or Palestinians, Hamas, or anything like that. And that actually sort of escalated the death toll and the death and destruction that was seen, especially on cars and things like that. So that's October 7th. We now see some kind of an alleged ceasefire happening. As you pointed out, it's way rougher than most of the media is really willing to cover at this point. And as you know, the Palestinian sphere has said for years, a ceasefire with the Israelis is the Palestinians cease and the Israelis fire. And that's really what we've continued to see in many ways. And then my final point in terms of this is all very much hooked in with the coming of the second Trump regime. This obviously comes on the back of the Abraham Accords. It also comes on the back of the Trump-Kushner-Netanyahu attempt to basically, in Netanyahu's word, transcend the Palestinian problem by creating a new Palestine, which is really not a state, not a nation state, but really some kind of corporatist protectorate, first and foremost under so-called Israeli security, but then also, as we're now sort of seeing on TV news all around the world at this point, a place for Trump and his buddies, whether they're in the United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia, but also much closer to home, like Kushner and Witkoff, for their billionaire buddies to come in and basically do some kind of big real estate operation and a great parcel of land. And then maybe the Palestinians will have, some of them, if they act right, they'll have a place at that table. But this was all then orchestrated as part of the 2024 election in many ways. And, you know, this is why I've sort of called October 7th something acting like an October surprise in terms of the American electoral system, but a year earlier. And our previous big October surprise was obviously the Carter-Reagan election that then culminates in on the 444th day of the Iran hostage crisis, which, by the way, go look at the work of Farah Mansour, an Israeli dissident, who basically says that the entirety of the sort of what became, at least, of the Iranian Revolution was largely managed and handled by sort of cowboy rogue CIA elements all the way up to like the Bush network to some extent. But at the lower levels, this was all done too to basically say, see, Jimmy Carter's weak, he can't release the hostages. Bam, 444 days later, on the day of Reagan's inauguration, I believe, the hostages are released. And we had something very similar happen with this incoming second Trump regime, is that that was the first big thing. A few more hostages were released right when he comes in. And then this deal, this alleged ceasefire deal or peace deal that's come in, most all of this had been on the table for at least a year, if not more than a year,
Yeah,
really.
they said that Biden actually offered the same. I don't know how true this is, but they said they offered the same deal and it was rejected. That Donald Trump called up Netanyahu and told him not to because it would be detrimental to re-election hopes. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I read in the mainstream. Go ahead.
No, you're right. And Netanyahu and Trump met at Mar-a-Lago. While the Biden-Harris, although the way the Biden-Harris administration had basically, I believe, morally failed and enabled the Netanyahu and his genocide, was that they were said to have given a bear hug to Netanyahu in Israel. Biden goes to Israel to actually hug Netanyahu and warn the Israeli people of how we as the American people had sort of driven ourselves into a ditch after September 11th by letting revenge get to us rather than proper logical response to something like a terrorist event. But then ultimately, then, the Biden Harris were trying to make some things like a ceasefire. They tried to push the Israelis and keep them from, going into full on assaults in certain areas. And they never leveraged American power in any substantial way to do that. And so Netanyahu and Trump took advantage of this very weak, in this way, American executive and ultimately undermined them. And Trump and Netanyahu have been collaborators for a long, long time. Netanyahu helped bring Trump in the very first time. Trump helped support Netanyahu in one of his reelection campaigns. So they were, collaborating throughout this, and they did work to try to undermine any potential American attempt to actually get a hostage release, maybe what you call prisoner trade of some sort, and a potential working ceasefire, in order then for this whole thing then to be hung, in this case, rightfully around the necks of Biden Harris. And so my last point is that Harris has now been going around on her book tour. She admits tiny bits of certain kinds of things about how she was undermined by the Biden people when she wanted to separate herself out, maybe on this policy. But ultimately, she gave over her own powers to her own people, where at the DNC, they did not allow for any Palestinian American voice to be heard. In fact, they allowed Israeli voices to be heard, maybe Israeli American voices, but definitely Israeli voices to be heard there. And now Harris is trying to shame protesters for calling her to account during her book tour. So once again, I think in this case, we're into a RICO genocide kind of operation. And so there is guilt on quote unquote both sides here. But it's very obvious that the entirety of the Gaza genocide that Netanyahu predicated, I think, for years, if not decades, that this was then the parallel benefit to both Trump and Netanyahu was to actually hang the whole thing around Biden and Harris in a fairly appropriate way in certain ways, if they were not actually undermining them behind the scenes.
I agree, man. And also we need to look at, Trump standing up there in Israel and saying, "Hey, listen, we need to pardon this guy." That's another big aspect of this. Like, we need to pardon Netanyahu. Bold face is shameless. They don't give a damn. Listen, Jeremy, do you know Mr. Klezak at all? Have you guys met?
I don't think so.
This is Jeremy Roshka show, and this is
good to meet you.
Yeah, this is Mr. Klezak, who's going to be joining us today. Talking about Project 2025 and a couple of things that he's been doing research on.
Nice.
Jeremy, tell us where the people. First off, thank you so much for coming on in our maiden voyage over at YouTube. Let's see how long we can keep this up. Hopefully, we don't get kicked off. We are 188 strong at the moment. Tell everybody where they can find you, sir.
You can find The Antidote. And our now actually re-inscribed YouTube channel, The Antidote, ANTEDOTE. We're also at John Swin's ExposeTheEnemy.com, our Antidote Patreon, and you can find me on Twitter when I am present at Jeremy WRK. Thank you so much, Billy, for having me, and we'll be in contact. I'll work with you also in terms of making sure my sound is right.
Oh, you're good, brother. It actually wasn't that bad. Like, I mean, it came back, but your information and your voice took it over. Really, it wasn't really an issue the second half of it. So we're good. We'll figure it out, buddy. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on, man. I will be in touch without a doubt. Thank you so much, bro.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Bye. Good to meet you.
All right. Mr. John Klezak, how are you, sir?
Doing okay. This is Sunday is my long run, and I'm a little getting over. I don't know what I had, but I was pretty sick for about a week. So
I'm sorry to hear
my
that, brother.
brain is relatively sharp. I'm not sure how sharp it is.
Relatively is good. Relatively is good, my friend.
All right.
Good to see you, man. Listen, it's Gorilla Underground. It's our maiden voyage on YouTube. We went ahead and bit the bullet and said, let's try that. There are about 5 people over there, I think, right now. Okay. What's up to you guys, whomever you are? Thank you for being over there. We have about 40 subs, I think. We need 100. Let's go to 100. I need your help. We have 190 strong right now. On X and YouTube combined. What's up to all of you? I will go to the chat before we are done here. This is also going to go up on the infinitefringe.podbeam.com stream, which is probably going to be renamed Gorilla Underground. But to the people that are still over there, you're going to get some of this. Mr. Klezak, man, you've been busy, sir. As per normal, we've been trying to make this work. I got sick, and it didn't happen, and then life got in the way. But I'm happy that you're here. I want to discuss. I want to get your thoughts on current events too, but we can do that after this. I do want to discuss your article. Let me pull it up. There's one part of it that I really want to get into, but this is from Project 2025 to the PayPal presidency. That's a hell of a title, You mind breaking this down for us real quick? Everybody wants to know what's up.
Yeah. Well, I know I popped in here. I want to say
2 months
March?
ago.
Yeah, like around March or something. And I think we talked about the first piece in the series. So this one is building on the first piece I wrote on Project 2025. I pretty much saw that coming and tried to get out in front of it or time that article with the release or with the nomination of the secretary and everything that they've gone through with since then. So in that first piece, basically what I looked at was the education chapter of Project 2025, and I looked at how the school choice provisions were being pursued by the Trump administration. And the way that I sort of dove into that was I looked at the backgrounds of the various authors of that chapter and their affiliations with a number of sort of neoconservative and beltway libertarian think tanks that are part of the Koch brothers state policy network. So these include American Enterprise Institute, American Legislative Exchange Council, Cato Institute, EdChoice, Heritage Foundation, and then another one that pops up is the Foundation for Excellence in Education. It used to be it was Jeb Bush's organization. And it used to be the acronym Foundation for Excellence in Education, FEE. But I don't think they liked it. The word fee was their acronym for like for a public-private partnership, basically a corporatization scheme. So they changed it to Excel in Ed. But this article, this recent one, dives into the fintech industry. I picked the title from Project 2020 for the PayPal presidency because Whitney and Mark Goodwin have been doing a series that they titled variously the PayPal presidency, looking at different aspects of the PayPal mafia behind Donald Trump. So I sort of made it kind of dovetail with that. But in this piece, I'm looking at the digital wallet industry, the way that cascades with the larger blockchain fintech industry, the rise of stable coins in the Genius Act. And part of how I even came across it was when I was writing that first piece, I noticed that the various think tanks that I mentioned, and even some of the authors of Project 2025 specifically,
right,
had been promoting the use of these various digital wallet companies to basically be the intermediary to distribute those school choice funds, the education savings accounts, and the tax credited so-called scholarships. I guess I could pause there, and you can take it where you want to take it, or I can unpack what those terms mean as far as education savings accounts, school choice funds, vouchers.
Yeah, we need that. We need a breakdown of those terms. But I do want you to get into the Heritage Foundation and their influence on all of this, and of course the CMP. I would call this the CMP presidency, rather than the PayPal presidency. Although the PayPal mafia, of course, has their fingerprints all over this, right? And the neo-reactionist, all of these entities just merge into one big ball of fascism. And so it's I guess we can just pick which one we want to talk about. But I think it was the Class wallet or the I forget which one it was that you mentioned in the article. I read this a few, like, when you first sent it to me.
Class wallets in there. Yeah. There's about four others that I discussed, but Class wallets featured rather prominently.
Right. And I want you to discuss that a little bit and flesh that out for people for what that is. But go ahead, give us a rundown of what you think is important via the terms, and then we can get into heritage and the Class wallet. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So, I mean, we might sort of just give a nice overview of what the school choice movement is. You can break it out into two arms. The first is the charter schooling movement. These are private companies that are subsidized by public tax dollars. They have corporate boards, etc. That's kind of old hat. That's been around for quite a while. Pretty much every state in the country has a large chain of charter schools. But the second wave of school choice has to do with these funding mechanisms. So distributing funds directly to families for them to then purchase either tuition at a private school, could be a religious school, or could be a homeschool, or could be education technology companies and their products and services to facilitate home learning. And so these different types of funding mechanisms in that second wave, they fall under the categories of vouchers, education savings accounts, tax credits for tuition, and then tax credits for scholarships. Sometimes they're referred to altogether, the last basket, as neo vouchers, because they're all essentially the same, except that if I were to break down the difference for the vouchers was that it was like a one-off direct payment for authorized for tuition for school. So the voucher would be like written out, handed to the family, then the family would bring that to the school that it's written for. The education savings accounts are like a basket. It's like a basket of money, and so you can use it for a range of different, could be ed tech products and services. Some of it could be tuition for any of those homeschools, private schools, etc. But it could also be for like tutoring or what they call educational therapies. And then the scholarships, basically, those can be sometimes actually a basket of money or a one-off. But the way that those are, what makes those unique is they usually have what's called a scholarship granting or a scholarship funding organization, an SGO or an SFO. So it's a nonprofit organization that basically manages the monies. And I believe that the reason why they made those, created that sort of middleman, was because some of the early vouchers were challenged in some states on the grounds of separation of church and state. So they basically, what they said was the government's writing a check directly to be paid for at a religious institution in certain instances. So I think they created the SFOs and the SGOs, because then actually, and the way those work is that the donations are tax credited. So like whoever is the donors, maybe wealthy people, maybe companies, maybe other nonprofits, they put money in and then they can write those donations off. And then that money is then filtered down to the student. So the government isn't giving the SGO money. It's not giving money directly to the school. It's actually got these three steps in between. And that's basically how they're going to try to skirt that. So if all that is way too confusing, like I think a nice heuristic or shorthand for all of them is vouchers and neo vouchers, right? These different forms in which public tax dollars are getting funneled into these various private companies. If you want, I can jump into the heritage thing here, or should I pause and let you kind of?
No, you could jump into heritage. Why are they changing it? Like, I mean, I know that's a very basic question, but we should flesh it out. I know we fleshed it out a bit the first time you came on, but just for new listeners.
And when you say changing it, you mean as far as the different categories of how it's funny? Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah. Like I said, the vouchers had been challenged for those reasons, right? And so by putting these other institutions in the middle, you can make a legal argument that the government is not funding the religious institutions. But and then as far as the education savings accounts, you can that money can be used in a more diverse manner, we'll say. I'm sure the right would love me to use the term diverse to describe their funding mechanisms, but you can hit, there's a lot more people that can get a piece of that pie, I guess, that money. But there's another instance as well, another example for the SGOs and the SFOs is that a lot of these are actually impact investment firms, organizations. So impact investment, basically in education, the main impact investment schemes known as Pay for Success. There's provisions for this in the Every Student Succeeds Act, which is basically the main federal bill that governs public education. And basically the way the impact investments work is the impact investment firm, they put up money up front to help achieve certain outcomes. Obviously for education, it's education, but there's impact investing in other spheres of the economy as well. So they could be health outcomes, it could be workforce outcomes. Sometimes these can actually dovetail together. And basically, so they put this money up front. And if the student or the patient or whoever is the recipient of the money, if they can achieve those outcomes, then they will get that money back to the degree that they've met the outcome. So if they fulfill all the outcomes, they can get all that money back from the government. If they exceed the outcomes, they can actually make a profit. And I don't want to digress into something that's kind of tangential, but actually is related. But maybe we'll come back to it.
Let's do it. Come on. Tell me.
Well, so there's a company that is basically took a big chunk of my tutoring hours at one of the schools where I tutor. So it's called Upswing, and it's got an AI bot, and it does mental health in addition to the education. But what is germane to the whole impact investing was I decided to look up the company to see, like, okay, well, never heard of this company. Like, who funds this thing? And it's a bunch of venture capital firms, which is germane, related, pertinent, because when we talk about these digital wallet companies, these are all funded by various venture capital firms, many of which, some like Andreessen Horowitz is directly in the Thiel orbit, but some of them are more a little like on the outskirts, but they also have like overlapping portfolios. But there's also impact investment firms that run that finance Upswing. Right. Upswing, and one of them is social finance, and actually social finance I discussed in the previous article that we discussed. The first one, Trump Ed 2025, Trump's 2025. Right. Forget the subtitle to that one, but that one is mentioned in there. And if my memory serves me correctly, that social finance project was a collaboration between some Koch brothers institution. Maybe it was Stand Together Trust or the Stand Together nonprofit. Maybe it was the Charles Koch Foundation. If you go to the article, you'll find it. But it was a partnership between social finance, one of those Koch companies or institutions, and I think Google was another one. So so it was just a nice little example of the ways in which these things are like popping up on my doorstep now.
Well, thank you for breaking that down, man. Let's talk about the Heritage Foundation, and of course the Heritage Foundation was instrumental in Project 2025. They've been at this for quite some time. They've been trying to get this done even before the Project 2025 came together. And the Heritage Foundation is intimately involved with the CMP, right? The CMP is probably the parent company of what the Heritage Foundation is. Like, the Heritage Foundation, for some reason, has more visibility. It is more known amongst the mainstream than the CMP is, but they're intimately involved, in my opinion. So talk about what the Heritage Foundation is trying to achieve here and why. And then I want to get into this graph you have here. This what do we call it? It says generating credit scores with algorithms, because you talked about credit scores and how that's going to impact all of this. And I do want to discuss that. So go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So Heritage Foundation is basically the head of the entire Project 2025 initiative. Right. As you know, Heritage Foundation, if my memory serves me correctly, was set up by Paul Weyrich.
Yeah.
And Paul Weyrich was one of the guys that also set up the Council for National Policy and also the American Legislative Exchange Council, which was ALEC, which I mentioned was part of the State Policy Network. It was actually a member of the Project 2025 Advisory Board as well. And what ALEC is basically it's like a think tank sort of, or a consortium of like people that draft these boilerplate bills that they then hand out to state legislatures and federal legislators to try to draft bills that privatize whatever the initiative is. And so some of those, one that would be relevant for today's discussion would be the Virtual Public Schools Act. Was created I can't remember quite when, but if you get a copy of my book, the dates are in there. But on their education task force, they had companies like K-12 Inc. on there. So K-12 Inc. was like the first nationwide charter school, and that was set up by Bill Bennett, Secretary of Education Bill Bennett. And Bill Bennett is, I'm pretty sure, if my memory serves me correctly, he's Council for National Policy. K-12 Inc. was also funded by Betsy DeVos. Definitely the DeVos family, Dick DeVos, definitely very instrumental in the Council for National Policy as well. So those are some of the CNP examples that we could note here as far as that goes. Heritage. Bill Bennett's involved in Heritage as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, absolutely. Like it's debated on whether or not this is actually a good thing. I mean, I don't think it's a good thing personally. We spoke about during our first interview, whether the Department of Education was actually being dismantled or whether it was being reshuffled, right? And I think it's a little bit of both, right? I mean, the Department of Education is going away, but some of these things have been reshuffled. Some of the areas that the Department of Education is responsible for have been reshuffled. And
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, but it's still there. Correct. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure we still have a Department of Education.
And it's gutted. It's a Department of Education by name only, in my opinion. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. No, I mean, so one thing that noteworthy would be that all the stuff like IDEA, Individual with Disabilities Education Act. Okay, basically all of the disability services that are federal have been moved to the Department, HHS, Department of Health and Human Services. But that's entirely within the provisions of the Department of Education Organization Act. It says in there, these are like, we're going back to that other article. So like I have notes for this article. So like,
right.
It's hard for me to get dates and particulars.
You're good. Go ahead.
But whatever section it is, I looked it up, and it's on my Twitter as well. If you go through there, if you scroll down far enough, you'll see where I screenshot it and say that this is entirely within the provisions of the Department of Education Organization Act, which was passed in 1979. Right? It says in the instance to avoid redundancies and duplicative services. Right. If there's anything that could be handled in one versus both, like something like disabilities, you could put under healthcare or mental health. So therefore you can put that in HHS as opposed to education. So my point in saying that is that that's not an example of like three times there was these, MAGA influencers that put out these tweets with this, the red alarm thing, like breaking, and saying like the Department of Education going to pass executive order to destroy or to dismantle or eradicate or eliminate the Department of Education. Well, none of that is that. That's just using a provision in the 80, about 40-year-old bill, almost 45-year-old bill Like, so, and you know, like they kept pushing it like the Department of Education was going to go away. And like I said, every time it's not going away. It's still here. They're just going to reshuffle things. Like they need a federal agency to handle it. And even if they, and what they've done is, I mean, what they could have done, which we discussed, right? And I had a whole list of the different offices and where they were to go, as far as the Office for Civil Rights and HHS, and I think some stuff was supposed to go to DOJ for, you know, things like that. Like, you know, they've really only moved the idea stuff. They got rid of the Institute for Education Sciences for the most part. They basically gutted all of it. But I think all that has to do with it. That was largely for keeping data. And I think that they know that, I mean, as they privatize stuff, most of that data, as we can discuss here, you know, getting back to the article or this one, is that a lot of that data is just going to be sort of, they like the word decentralized. I think a better phrase is distributed, because it's, you know, it's ultimately, it's not centralized in the sense that it's all one entity or one company. But, right, like when you have this distributed infrastructure between digital wallets and stable coins and ed tech analytics, and then you have something like Palantir, that with their ontology or their foundry, that can aggregate everything, right? Like you're eventually all that stuff gets centralized, and the end game here is to put it on a digital ID, and then to you know, upload it into a social credit database.
And that's ultimately what I want to discuss.
Yeah.
So hold that. Right. But as far as the Department of Education itself, right, they just finished gutting the special education aspect of it. Like whomever worked in that department is gone. Right. I mean, and I know they took that and gave it to Kennedy. Right. They put it under Kennedy. So he's overseeing it now, Health and Human Services. But wouldn't that mean that eventually there will be nothing for the Department of Education to do if all their main functions are being shuffled to other government entities? You know, and to be quite honest, as long as the funding continues for a lot of this stuff, it doesn't matter. Maybe it does matter where it comes from, but at least the funding continues under HHS. You know, maybe, you know, we'll take that, or at least we can work with that rather than they just shutting it down altogether. But it looks to me like they're moving to have this gone. I mean, that's what they're saying, right? Donald Trump said that Linda McMahon was supposed to work herself out of a position. And Linda McMahon has openly said that that's what she aims to do. She is very unqualified and incompetent, of course. So she might not be able to work herself out of a position. She may not be able to do that. But that's what the goal is. So once everything has been redistributed, what is there for the Department of Education to do? Do you think it will survive in any form? Their whole argument is that it's unconstitutional and it shouldn't exist. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that is just hype, though. I mean, as far as like,
is it hype that it's happening? It's actually happening.
No, I mean, it's hype.
What part of it is hype?
That they want to get rid of the actual Department of Education.
So like what will they do?
They just want to reorganize it. They just want to restructure, which is what the name of the bill that they were going to propose for that in Project 2020. They said they were going to propose a Department of Education Reorganization Act, not dismantling act, not abolishment act, right? Like, and I'm not saying that, you know, things aren't, that they don't want to gut, you know, a lot of the funding for sure.
Well, I hope not.
And I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that like they still want to have some form of federal enforcement of who's allowed to get school choice monies, what they're allowed to use that for, and then you know, having compulsory education period, like forcing you to go to school, and then forcing you to use these monies for these particular products and services, and then wedging into the, you know, the impact investment and all the data extraction. Like that's, so they want a federal agency to manage that as much as they need a federal agency to do so. Right. So,
Right.
but as far as like, when I say it's hype, I mean, like they have been selling it, especially to like, the sort of libertarian, type people, or people that, that libertarian political policies speak to, that have an affinity for that. Like
Oh,
they're
they're throwing them
selling
at
it
me.
like they're going to get rid of all government education. That's not happening.
Oh no, that's not
Not
happening. Okay, we can agree on that 100%. That's not happening. I think what will eventually happen is that the Department of Education itself will not have a function, because all the functions will be redistributed. So I think that that's what's going to happen eventually, if they get their way, and they're already 50% almost in accomplishing the goals of Project 2025. So if everything is redistributed, there'll be nothing for the actual Department of Education to do. Is that going to end the schooling system of the United States? No, it's not. Right? That's not going to happen. But I don't think the Department of Education is. What am I wrong about here? Like, what are they going to do if all of their functions are redistributed? Why would they need to remain? Why are they going to remain?
Well, at the very least, I mean, it's the funding mechanism, essentially. Like, I mean, I suppose you could, and some states do that. They actually have Department of Revenue or the Treasury actually like distribute the school choice fund. So I guess you could just have Treasury, but I mean, like, in order to, so when we get to the digital wallet stuff, right? The whole idea of why they want to use the digital wallets is that, they want to prevent waste, fraud, and abuse. They want to make sure that, not just giving blank checks to people, and then they can go and buy whatever they want. So like, I guess some of the school choice funds, like they would put them on pre-programmed like Visa cards, and some of those have purchasing codes programmed,
right?
And they restrict what you can buy, but I guess they're not like super precise. So like, you can go and get school supplies from Walmart, but I guess depending on what you buy, I guess you can go there and take it, and it'll let you buy food and other things that are not technically school supplies. So what they want to, with the digital wallet companies and their online marketplaces, and then, sort of getting ahead of myself, but then the programmable stable coins as well. Now you can make sure that everything is authenticated properly, that only the funds that are distributed, that they can only go to the authorized schools, educational products and services. And so I would say that the Department of Education will at least have to maybe have a database for who are authorized vendors as far as like ed tech companies or different schools. But they say they want to send stuff back to the states, so maybe they'll let the states do a lot of that. But it's still, right, as far as the federal monies go, like those would be some things that I think you might need uniquely an education department. It could be an office. Look, the Department of Education started as an office in the Department of the Interior in like 1860s. Okay. Right. And then it stayed there for a long time. And then we finally had a federal Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. So if you know that it was all three of those, they all had their own office. And then when they did in 79, the Department of Education Organization Act, they just took education, made it its own department, and then Health and Welfare became Health and Human Services. Okay. And then, so what I'm saying is that the shuffling that even if they were to shuffle most stuff to HHS, and it would still be akin or in alignment with what they had prior to the Department of Education, which was HEW.
Right.
And so I just, so that's, if they would do anything, if there would be something left for it to do, it would be something like that. But the bulk, do you know what the bulk of the Department of Education funds goes to? It's like 2/3 of it.
What's that?
It's student, it's college loans,
right,
and FAFSA, college loans, Perkins grants, things like that. It's like the budget for the Department of Education is like $230 billion was the last time I checked.
Right.
I think that would have been last year. And at the top of that, the largest chunk of it, It's on transparency.gov. It's a terrible website because like it's supposed to be, it's like, it's called transparent. I think it's transparency.gov. It's like this was set up during the Obama years to like be transparent and show you where the monies go. But it's like, when I look at it, I know that like, okay, there's several other offices. If I had my list in front of me, oh, it's right here. Like Office of Special Education, Office of Career and Technical Adult Education. All those aren't listed in the graph that they provide. All right. So what I'm just saying is like, it's not exhaustive. Like they have things in very general categories, but one of the largest one is like, I don't know if that's all FAFSA federal grants, if some of it's Perkins loans, if it's the subsidized loan program, if it's both together, but all of that, I'm guessing it's probably all of it. It's like it's 100. I said it's like 2/3, like 160 billion or 170 billion or something.
Right.
Okay. So most of that stuff is for basically getting people into college after they've already graduated through, K through 12. What's left over is for K through 12, which is not a whole lot of money.
Right.
So, I'll just touch on one other thing that I didn't write about, but I did note in the piece was that, and McMahon has emphasized this on multiple occasions since, that they want to take some of that money and instead of just giving it to for college tuition for like a credit bearing degrees. This might actually, I
keep going. I'm stepping off camera, but I'm listening. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, this one I might not, if you're going to have $160 billion going out to get people into higher education, it might not be a bad idea to allow some of that money to go to the actual workforce training type classes especially like community college classes. I'll give you an example. Like, okay, there's credit bearing classes that give you college credit towards, could be 2-year, 4-year degree, whatever, but it's like, you're going to get either an associate's or a bachelor's and it's credits towards that. Then they have other classes, usually in the adult education department or something like that. That they're like, you earn a certificate for a particular field. So they have like one for, I was going to get a paralegal certificate one time, because I've done some pro se stuff. My grandma was legal secretary and stuff. And it's a pretty smooth segue from language arts, logic, rhetoric, etc. And I was like, this could be a quick way to, up my income and, kind of even things out a little bit. And so I was going to use my tuition credits. You get tuition credits, if you're an adjunct, you can take a free class every semester if you want. Well, they told me, they go, well, no, you can't take that class because it's not college bearing, credit bearing. Like it's a certificate. So you have to pay that out of pocket. It was like $2,000. I mean, it wasn't a very cheap class. Like, and I just was like, so I never did it. But so the way I understand it, what they want to do is take some of that college aid monies, and instead of allowing it only to be used for a degree bearing, coursework, that you could use that for stuff like that, like to get a CDL, like they have the trucking. You can get you get trucking certificates at the adult ed or like a paralegal or something like that. Like, so maybe that's part of what could also, what might also be left. And then, you'll over time, you have to have, especially if that's the direction they go with the workforce training, you're going to have some kind of a board to oversee, like what's the in-demand industries, who are we partnering with, who's on the list that we authorize to receive these grant monies and things of that nature. But I will agree that a lot of it, yes, could be funneled into basically health and human services. Right. And Department of Labor as well.
Of course, there's different places they can throw everything at, and that seems to be what they're doing. But you spoke about the loan aspect of this and loan recipients. That's already changed. It's already taken a hit. People that are looking for loans, it's a different situation. People have to pay back their loans. A whole bunch of stuff has gone on as a result of Trump coming into office. But you have this generating credit score with algorithms. And one of the areas here that you point out are loan rates and amounts. Give us a breakdown of what this score is that you're talking about and how it will affect all of these things here. Insurance premiums, access to social services, the rating will determine eligibility for these loans and jobs and et cetera, is what you have here. Give us a breakdown of this.
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure where I got that flow chart from, but that was just something that I wanted to demonstrate or illustrate that, like, so what I'm looking at is I'm zooming in on education, right? And I'm looking at how your learning analytics from your various ed tech products, that those are going to be correlated with the fintech inputs, meaning the school choice monies. They're going to get a pattern or a feedback loop between monies in and learning outcomes out. Okay. And based on that, right, in education, that's going to determine what's called your career pathway in education, right? And this will also be the analytics you get there and the career pathway that you're put on. That could also open the door for other impact investments to sort of sponsor or subsidize you in your career path. But that same thing is going to be happening in healthcare. It's going to be happening in the workforce more broadly, your criminal justice records, all these different data points are going to be put on different parts of a biopsychosocial ledger, a ubiquitous ledger. So, and the impact investment will work the same. So, you know, we can talk about, like, it's interesting too, when you mentioned that, I didn't even really think about that. Yeah. So if the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and all the other disability services goes to HHS, and that means technically it's under Bobby Kennedy.
It is.
Kennedy wants everybody to be on wearables now. And, you know, well, that's so the wearables that I talk about in the book and in my articles that I've talked about for a long time, the way that they were all developed initially as what are known as assistive technologies, meaning for people with disabilities. Like, so, okay, we'll walk through some of these. They've got the heart monitors, heart math. Okay. And it's an EKG, it data mines the heart rate. But one of the ways that it's pitched, actually, they use this at the wellness center in one of the schools where I teach. And it's for helping students with testing anxiety. So you put the thing on and you do a breathing exercise, meditation. This thing is gives you some signal when you're in what they call heart coherence. So I guess that means that your heart rate is at a certain wavelength where it indicates relaxation, right? You're not all anxious, right? And that's an assistive technology, right? For that, right? It's helping you with anxiety, right? It's helping you with basically a psychological issue, right? It's a health care issue, right? The EEG wearables, the brainwave monitors. So they've a couple companies. One is called BrainCo. That's a Chinese. It was developed by a Chinese state-run electronics company in partnership with Harvard academics and this guy, Bi-Cheng Han, who is a member of the World Economic Forum, actually. And another one was called Neurocore, and that was a company that Betsy DeVos funded and or was on the board of directors. Again, if you go to the book, I got the particulars there. It's one or both. Company, as far as I can tell, doesn't exist anymore because none of those links work anymore. So I don't know if the company folded or if they just rebranded, and I don't know what they rebranded as, but I've lost track of that company. But they pitched their EEG wearables was to help students who have ADHD. Put the thing on and you either played a game or you watched a video, and somehow it was data mining your attention. And if you stopped paying attention to the game or the movie, whichever it was, it would either stop the game or would do something. The screen would pause or something until you paid back attention, and then it would. And this, so again, right, treating ADHD, treating a psychological issue. So I just think it's interesting that that they would move that there. And I'll tell you that, look, this is as I wrote the book. First I was looking at just like kind of the adaptive learning courseware and like, okay, well, what are they going to do with the data? And then I ran across the biofeedback wearables, and I'm like, oh, well, and then I'm thinking like, well, these are all technically like, if they're for students with disabilities, well, that data has to be specially sort of firewalled, right? Like, I mean, all your education records are supposed to be private under FERPA, right?
Right.
But the disability stuff is totally separate, right? So like, in other words, I can have a bunch of FERPA protected records of students in terms of their grades and emails and things like that. but I can't have their health data. I can't have their health records. Now they might send me, and by the way, they don't send me. Like anybody that's taught knows this, that or at the college level on day one, you put it in the syllabus that says if you have a disability, go see the disability services and have them get you accommodations. Because I can't just go around and ask people if they have disabilities. I can't assume that they do, right? I can't verbally indicate that I think that they do, right? All that would be a violation of, right? I mean, effectively HIPAA, but the health privacy. So when I was looking at these wearables and things like that, I'm going like, well, how are they going to basically mainstream all of this? And it was in that process when I was thinking that, well, you're going to have some legislative process over time, and then comes lockdowns, and you realize like, oh no, under emergencies you can just do away with all those firewalls, and that's also where I realized that, like when I saw the social credit system in China, I was like, this is what it looks like when it all comes together.
Well, I think some of it has already been rolled out in China, as far as the wearables that you stare into the computer, and once your attention strays from what you're staring at, or you're not paying attention, it picks up on it. At least it was run, I think, as a test in China.
They did end using it. Last I checked, it was halted. But the BrainCo, that one that I mentioned, you can still see there. If you go on YouTube and you type in BrainCo China WSJ for Wall Street Journal, you'll get a video that shows the kids in the classroom with the headbands on, the teacher up at the front with the dashboard and all that, and and the robots in the classroom with the facial recognition and all of that type of stuff. But yeah, that flow chart was just kind of to show that, like, we're zooming in over here, but all that data, so your education data isn't just going to also affect your career pathway, it's going to affect your healthcare, and vice versa. Your health data is going to affect what you're allowed to learn, and that's going to affect. So all of this stuff is going to be everything else is basically.
And this is just me putting on my tinfoil hat for a second, but there might be ways to sort this and source this, and it would have been, it wouldn't be a surprise to me if Palantir gets the contracts to store this information as intimately as they work with the Trump administration. We know what they're doing in terms of the illegal aliens, quote unquote, and trying to push their AI in that aspect for the American people to buy into it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Kennedy and the Trump administration turned to them for storage of this stuff, quote unquote. And who knows what they'll be doing with the information. I don't trust Peter Thiel as far as I can throw him, and I can't throw him very far, so the corruption within the Trump White House is insane, and they're not making any bones about it. I don't know what company is going to be tasked with housing this information. I don't know if it's coming soon or not, but I would not be surprised if the PayPal mafia, which Peter Thiel is a part of course, has something to do with the storage and manipulation of the information. And that kind of scares me. Am I off base, sir?
No, that's kind of what I basically kind of surmised in my book, which, that was published in 2019. I looked at Peter Thiel's connections with Bill Bennett and Betsy DeVos and adaptive learning courseware companies like Newton and Clever. And I looked at all of his other, Palantir contracts with the federal government, as far as I think I looked at the Gotham project and sort of its, predictive policing algorithms. And I also looked at, the rise of the social credit system in China. And I, sort of surmised that, his Palantir or some aggregate of his various tentacles would become essentially the engine for an American style social credit system. So like so Peter Thiel, worth noting. I mean, as you know, he's head of the PayPal mafia, basically founding father of it. A lesser known PayPal mafia figure is Rod D. Martin, Council for National Policy. Peter Thiel, also, he was his connection to Bill Bennett. He wrote he was a speechwriter when he was Secretary of Education. Right. And he Thiel met privately with Betsy DeVos. It was at his home, I believe. And, we don't know what they discussed, but I would guess they probably discussed something about the ed tech industry. And as I noted, Peter Thiel, he's invested in Newton and Clever, and these are what are known as adaptive learning courseware. They are the modern digital version of B.F. Skinner's teaching machine. This, like companies like Dreambox, they admit it. And they also admit that essentially behavioral advertising algorithms are essentially the same as their learning algorithms, which they say are based on B.F. Skinner's operating conditioning algorithm. For those,
and you know what? We need to. We're approaching the end of the hour here. We need to have you back just to discuss B.F. Skinner. And break that down. It plays into the mass mind control that I feel like we're under here. Yeah. But yeah, man, I just think ultimately it's going to have its benefits. People are going to benefit from some of this stuff. We just have to be wary about where that information is going and who's using it and for what. And that's what scares me more than anything else. We will keep our eye on it. Listen, tell the people where they can find you, where they can buy your books, where they can do all of this stuff. We appreciate you, sir. Thank you for taking the time. And of course, Open Door. We're working on that once a month thing. If you can, great. If you can't, it's all good. But we appreciate you anyway, sir. Say what's up to the people.
Schoolworldorder.info is the website. It's got all my interviews, all my articles. It's got my database with all Charlotte Thompson Iserbyt's files, links to all my social media, links to the book, which you can get at Trying Day Books, tryingday.com. It's also on Amazon. Trying Day is better. And then it's on X. It's Taoist Professor, Taoist. It's on the screen if you're watching. Taoist Professor at X.
One more question before you leave.
Yeah.
Swig of water for the working man. It's actually Kool-Aid that I'm drinking. Drinking the Kool-Aid, not that type of Kool-Aid, but you know the deal.
So LMNT. It's not a. It's not a.
I got that.
Not
too.
selling it for them, but it's a
I
nice.
got one of those too.
It's good electrolyte. Sorry, sir. Go for your question.
No, you're good, man. So Charlotte Iserbyt, is if you've been around these circles for a while, you know that name. God bless her. She passed away. She wrote a book called The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. In the first hour, I stressed how we've been dumbed down like nobody's business. I think this includes me, guys. I'm not saying anything about anyone in particular, about anybody listening. I think we've been dumbed down to a ridiculous point that this buffoon is the president of the United States. Okay. Just saying. You clearly have done a lot of research into this. Have we been dumbed down? Are we the stupidest generation? It's hard for me to argue that we're not. I'm sitting here looking at what's going around and I'm like, oh my God, what the hell has happened? But Charlie Iserbyt called it, and she was talking about it for quite some time. And it's something that we discussed here in the alternative media for a long time, but we've kind of verged away from it, or we've pigeonholed some of these points in order to fit whatever it is that we want to portray. Just saying, what do you think? Give your honest opinions. How dumbed down have we become? And is it by design?
Yeah, well, definitely, so the solutions in my book, it's 5-point platform. The last one has to do with the pedagogy in the curriculum, essentially. So return to the classical method, grammar, logic, rhetoric, right, history, and civics, which all of those things I know I didn't have it, right? I didn't get classical rhetoric actually until my grad school, basically. And I largely had to kind of seek that out because even the rhetoric courses that I had, they were all like, it was like this smorgasbord of like postmodern forms of rhetoric. So instead of learning ethos, logos, pathos, and right, the different appeals and how to persuade, you had feminist pedagogy, or feminist rhetoric. You had Marxist rhetoric. You had critical rhetoric. You had queer rhetoric. You had cultural studies rhetoric, community service rhetoric, all these different ways to fill, and none of it had anything to do with ethos, logos, or pathos, right? So for people like, what's that jargon, right? Ethos is appeal to credibility, character, authority. Logos appeal to logic, reasoning, and evidence, and pathos appeal to various emotions, etc. But logic we don't have, right? So law of identity, law of non-contradiction, law of tautology, we don't learn this in high school, and you basically have to be a philosophy major to run into it in college. And then we get social studies. We don't get like history, and then the history we get, right, is usually watered down. I mean, whatever we get in that social studies package, and then none of that is civics, meaning like learning, like, not just taking the Constitution test and having to remember, right, the different branches of government, but like knowing how to like access the different chains for the channels for the civic process. But I will say one other thing to that point, which is I think more important than all of the ways that the actual curriculum has been watered down or dumbed down, and that is, I think that it's the demoralization. It's the slackerization of the modern American mind, I guess. And what I mean by that is, like, personally, I know people always said, like, I was smart or whatever, and you just don't apply yourself. You're always goofing off too much. And if you just took yourself seriously, you're so smart. But I never felt that way. I never felt like smart. And like I had to, the best way I can say it is I had to learn how to learn. And what that means is,
oh, hell yeah,
I had to learn like to do the things that the unfun parts of learning, which is, it gets a bad rap in education these days, but skill and drill, rehearsal, rote memorization, all that type of stuff is incredibly important for learning. So like at the end of the day, learning is, for me, like, it's more about discipline than it is about cognitive brain power, than how fast your neurons fire or anything like that. I think it really boils down to like, will you dedicate the time to learn the thing that you need to learn for the purpose that you need to learn it? Like, my thing in grade school, or most of high school, most people would be surprised to learn that I went to college, let alone passed it, let alone teach it, let alone wrote a book, all these types of things. Like, my whole thing was like, how can I cut as many corners as possible and give the least amount of effort possible to get a passing grade so that you don't get in trouble when I get home? Right.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just think that I think that that's probably the way most people operate when it comes to learning. Like, there's like, and even when it's something that you really enjoy, like there's you to achieve a high level at anything, you have to be on the precipice of the zone of proximal development. It has to be uncomfortable. It has to be difficult. It has to be challenging. If you're only doing the things that are entertaining, this whole move to gamify learning, if you can just make it fun, then the kids will learn. But that's not true. Like, even for the things that are fun that you love, like, because if you push yourself to achieve the next level, you get to the place where it's not fun, right? That requires you to like just be honest with yourself about like, where's the threshold and like the amount of time you have to put into it. Learning curves are steep. When you first start learning, it feels like you're not learning anything. You're just like, right? And then eventually you hit this place where it's like, oh, it's starting to click. Then you get to the place where it's like fun because now you can apply it. But you can't, if you don't have the patience and the discipline to ride that shallow curve, that has nothing to do with curriculum or brain capacity. That has to do with self-discipline and sacrifice and not being a slacker. That's what it has to do with.
It's tough, bro. You crawled into my brain and you read it. That's the story of my life. Am I a slacker? I guess at times I am, but there's there's other things in play here with some of this stuff. In my opinion, ADHD is real. It is real, man. That it gets in the way. It blurs the line with slacking. I'm learning that now about myself. It's something that's real and we should all discuss. Learning it's never been fun for me, but I understand when you get to a point where you actually realize that you've learned something. Initially, it's like, I'm not learning jack. And then you learn it and then you apply it. And it's like, oh, I did learn something. And then it starts becoming more, enticing. You want to grow more. You want to learn more. You want to, be able to apply it on a wide scale. At least that's what's happened to me. Anyway, thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate you. Go get some rest. I hope you feel better. Twisted in the chat said you should have some apricot juice and that'll fix everything. So go ahead and do that. He's kidding, by the way. But go ahead and have some apricot juice. It tastes good. Tell the people one more time where they can find you, buddy.
The garlic and all that. I'm sorry.
Tell the people one more time where they can find you, bud.
Schoolworldorder.info. That was Professor on X.
Excellent. I'll be in touch, bud. All right.
Yes,
be good. Be good. We got a couple more things that we're going to hit up tonight before I get out of here. Okay. I'll probably go on for another half hour or something. Cause I want to talk about Venezuela. I wanted to talk about this with Jeremy. But I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Everybody has stuff to do. It's Sunday morning. It's Sunday evening. I got stuff to do. Everybody has to get up early tomorrow to go to work. But I do want to play this, and I'm going to play it again next week, most likely. I'm going to ask Guard to come on with me next week. And Sebs had some criticisms of what I did with the podcast bros about 2 weeks ago. She wants to come on and give her take about that. I asked her to come on and give her take about that. So she's going to come on and do that next week, Lord willing. So I'm going to replay some of this. And at that point, we may actually be at war with Venezuela. At that point, it might be real. So let's see what develops. 263 strong, 253 on my X. And we got 10 people over at the Gorilla Underground at YouTube. I want everybody to sub over there. There's 253 people watching there. Maybe there's some crossover. Maybe two people found out how to be in two places at once. And they're watching in YouTube and they're watching on X. But that still leaves a whole shitload of you. I want you to subscribe over there. But I also want you to watch where you watch. I just want to hit 100 subs over there. That's what we're aiming for right now. After we hit 100 subs, maybe we'll go to 200. I don't know, but I'd like 100 at least. So let's get that happening. I know it might take a little bit of time. I just want to be more visible on YouTube. Hopefully, we're able to establish a presence there that doesn't get interrupted by YouTube itself. So I'd hope to be able to continue to broadcast there. Anyway, let me share some stuff with you that I think it's important. Be it that the Prince of Peace, the peace president, is starting a new war, and this was part of a lot of what was said after the 2020 election and even before that, the rhetoric of QAnon style messaging propaganda, that he never started any new wars. And I would always say, when I would go on to other people's shows and they would grill me about, why are you so anti-Donald Trump? And he's like, he never started any new wars. I'm like, did you forget Venezuela? This is not new. He tried to overthrow the government there before. Under his first administration, he tried to install Juan Guaido, an American CIA puppet, as the president of Venezuela. Under his first term, he tried that. Was not successful. It was a whole thing that went down. Listen, Nicolas Maduro is in big trouble, bro. Like, I mean, good. Like, watch your back, bro. They are trying to kill you. They're gonna try to kill you. If you don't leave on your own, they're gonna try to kill you. I don't see any other way around this. They're openly saying it in a lot of ways. They definitely want regime change. What the reasons for that regime change are debatable at this point. They're talking about that it's a narco trafficking state. I don't even know what that really means. That they're drugs. They're trying to bring over drugs to the United States. They produce zero evidence of that. Zero. They've blown up, I don't know how many ships at this point. They've killed over 20 people, murder. Even if they were bringing drugs over to the U.S., which is debatable at best, it's still murder. You can't just go around killing people. Let's play this clip from CBS News, and I got one more clip, and then we're going home.
Upping its number of service members and ships dedicated to its fight against what the White House is calling narco-terrorism there. You see that blast over the water. This comes on the same day the Defense Department says it carried out another strike on a boat, killing 6. Watch. It's right there. This brings, by the way, as we look at this unclassified video, that explosion there in the water and then the aftermath, the total number of strikes on alleged drug boats to 10. So let's talk to CBS News national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata. Charlie.
Now, but before we let Charlie talk here, man, they're showing us these videos on purpose. They are filming themselves killing people. More snuff videos for the American public. Why are they openly doing this? What are they trying to program into your mind? What visuals? For what reason? And this has been tweeted out on the White House freaking X account, or at least they've been promoting this, saying that, oh, look, we blew up this ship. We killed these people. Earlier, we played Donald Trump talking about, yeah, we're going to kill them. We're not going to declare war. We're just going to kill them like dead. That's the whatever.
You said, as did Pete Hegseth, that we could see these once a day. What are the details from the Pentagon on stepping up their presence by today?
Reed, this is huge. This is a really, really big announcement that the Pentagon made just a few minutes ago. It came from Chief Spokesman Sean Parnell. It says he's moving the world's largest aircraft carrier, in fact, the world's largest warship, and it's a carrier strike group. So there'll be a number of destroyers that will be headed to that region. It's just announced it's going to go from the Med to the Caribbean. But just look at the list that I've got here of the destroyers that are already there. You've got 4 destroyers, a missile cruiser, a guided missile cruiser. Sorry, we got the amphibious that you and I spoke about before with the Marines on board. 2 amphibious transport dock ships. So I'm onto the Navy trying to get an idea of whether or not they're going to bulk that up or whether they're going to be rotating some of those destroyers out with the idea that the Ford goes in there. But we have to frame this. This is putting a carrier into that neighborhood, that area of responsibility with against the stated mission, which is drug interdiction, is absolutely unheard of, aside from unprecedented. I can't remember the last time a carrier was in that region for any good reason other than sort of transporting in or out of it. So this is a major step forward. And my good friend David Martin, who worked before me at this position, he said there's no flex like a carrier strike group. So that's what we're seeing here. So this, it's hard to exaggerate what this means, certainly in terms of optics, but we really have to drill down as to what exactly the Pentagon and the Department of Defense or Department of War is planning in the weeks and months ahead. We don't know how long it's going to take that carrier strike group to get there. And as I said, they're 8, 9.
And they keep showing it over and over again. And it's not the first time. Every time that they blow up a boat, they keep showing it over and over and over again for people to see. Open snuff films. There were people on this boat. I can't see them on this one. I have very bad vision. Maybe somebody else can. But theoretically, if we believe what these people are telling us, there are people on this boat. So this is open murder being broadcast on nationwide, worldwide television, and it's all over social media. And then Donald Trump openly brags about killing people. Very nice.
Ships, including an attack submarine, F-35s in that region already, Puerto Rico. So we're talking about a serious military flex.
Serious military flex, an epic firepower potential there, Charlie, and that's even an understatement. I'm thinking of Lilia Luciano's recent interview with the top guy in Colombia who says that this is a violation of international law, also thinking about statements coming out of Venezuela. Do you feel like that flex is to send a direct message to people that Donald Trump calls bad guys?
It's freaking ridiculous that we even have to refer to it as that. The big, beautiful bill. Bad guys. Groceries. I made up the word groceries. This is how dumbed down. This is how dumbed down we are as a people right now, man. That this is the type of verbiage that we need to accept and roll with. From the president of the United States. They're very bad. They're bad guys. They're very bad. So we're blowing them up. We're going to kill them. We're going to kill them like dead, like dogs. They're going to die. We're going to kill them. That's what we got right now. In one of these boat strikes, 2 people survived. I don't know what happened to one of them. But I think both of them actually were returned to their country, whether it was Venezuela or Trinidad, one of the two. They were never brought to the United States. They were captured by the United States, but they were never brought to the mainland because they would have to try them if they did that. And they have no evidence proving anything. They have no evidence proving that these people were actually bringing any type of drugs anywhere close to the United States because they did this in international waters. Doesn't matter anymore. Donald Trump can get away with whatever he wants. He can do whatever he wants. He is the lawless one. Do whatever the fuck he wants and nobody gives a shit. We got this report, though, and I'm going to play it for you, of a Trinidadian man that they killed. You know, and his family has come out and said, hey, like, he wasn't a drug trafficker. He was a fisherman. I don't know. I'll take their word for it over Donald Trump. I'll tell you that much. But I want to play this for you because they have provided us with absolutely no evidence that these people were Tren de Aragua, that these people were bringing in fentanyl to the United States, that these people were bringing in any type of drugs, cocaine or otherwise. Zero evidence. And this would be very easy to flesh out, but no one's freaking asking for it anyway. MAGA's certainly not asking for it. MAGA was like, no new wars, no new wars, no new wars. And now there's, hey, we're going to get a new war. Oh, well, we need to go in there. We need to attack Venezuela because, you know, they're emptying out their jails on American soil. That was some other bullshit that Trump was talking about back in the day when he was getting elected for president that I didn't think anybody would believe, but apparently half of the country did. Anyway, here we go. A family of Trinidadian man believed killed in U.S. strikes demands proof of drug trafficking. I don't think that's too much to ask. But I guess it is when the proof doesn't exist. We're going to play this right now. Pay attention. This is a good one. Pay attention.
Family members of a young man from Trinidad and Tobago says he was killed in a recent U.S. military attack on a boat in the Caribbean this week. The family says 26-year-old Chad Joseph was a simple fisherman. He went to Venezuela 6 months ago to find better work because he had relatives there. The family claims he died in a strike on Tuesday. Joseph's cousin, Afisha Clement, spoke out about her pain.
Donald Trump take a father, a brother, a uncle, and nephew from families. Donald Trump don't care what he doing. He just targeting one thing in Venezuela. And he's saying it's drug cartels. It's not that. It's not that. Donald Trump, you need to stop your shit.
Beautiful.
And stop killing innocent people.
Beautiful. Let's play that again.
Drug cartels. It's not that. It's not that. Donald Trump, you need to stop your shit. and stop kill innocent people.
Donald Trump, you need to stop your shit and stop killing innocent people. It's really simple to see, you piece of filth. He should be impeached immediately and jailed. But you say that to the classic quote unquote, well, they're not conservatives, man. These are MAGAs. You say this to MAGA, they were like, why should he be impeached? Oh, that's liberal talk, or that's the Democrats trying to do that. How about this guy? This guy is running around killing people in the high seas, and that's an impeachable offense. It is a war crime. How about we hold these people accountable instead of seeking cover under our ideological blankets? Feel sorry for this family. Let's let it roll.
U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered U.S. troops to the Southern Caribbean to fight drug trafficking. They have since hit at least 6 boats.
There's more explosions, more snuff films you can find readily on mainstream outlets. No problem.
Were involved in illegal drugs. So far, these attacks have killed at least 27 people, but no evidence of involvement in the drugs trade has been shared.
You don't say. And more snuff films. Maybe it's a necessary thing for people to see. But you know, if it doesn't happen in their front door, it's never happened. It's not a thing. It's not happening. If they don't stick their head out their window and see it and witness it for themselves and feel some of it, it hasn't happened. Not a thing. These things ain't happening. This isn't true. I believe in nothing. Like the Big Lebowski. We believe in nothing, Lebowski.
The administration has given little info about these strikes. No names of the dead or details on what was on the boats.
Why, if you see a boat have narcotics on it, where's the narcotics? We want evidence. We want proof.
Where are the narcotics? We want evidence. We want proof. That's beautiful. That's what it's freaking music to my ears, and it should be music to all of your ears. Some people in our movement don't respect evidence. They don't want evidence. They say that evidence is unnecessary. But this lady right here, she wants evidence that he was a drug pusher. She wants to know what happens to her family members, and she has every right. And the United States should produce that evidence if it exists. But they'll probably fabricate some bullshit or not do it at all.
There is nothing. The other day, they intercept a boat with 4 men on it. Why they take off the men and them and shoot up the boat after?
Joseph's mom, Lenore Burnley, said no one from Trinidad's government has reached out to her.
Nobody come and tell us nothing. All we see is social media, people coming to put it out there. No police, nobody.
A U.S. official told Reuters that a strike on Thursday was the first with survivors. Legal experts question why the military, not the Coast Guard, is conducting these deadly operations. They also ask why the U.S. doesn't try to stop the boats without killing people.
Because Donald Trump said he was going to kill people like dead. What kind of a stupid question is that? Why aren't they stopping them and trying to figure out who's on them? It's not to their best interest to prove that, to try to suss that out. Donald Trump said he was going to kill them like dead. That's what he said. I'm going to kill them like dead. Let's play it. Let's play it real quick. Like dead. We're just going to kill them. Like dead. Hold on.
Likely to approve of that process. Why not just ask for a declaration of war?
Well, I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay? We're going to kill them. You know, they're going to be like dead. Okay.
We're going to kill them, you know. They're going to be like dead. That's what's going to happen. They're going to be like dead. We're going to kill them because we believe in nothing, Lebowski. Nothing. 278 strong. To everybody that tuned in today, we appreciate you. Everybody on my X, what's up? How are you? Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting what we do. I appreciate the hell out of you, man. I love seeing you when you guys come out and tune into the show and listen to what I have to say, whether you agree or disagree. You're here, and I appreciate you for that. And everybody over at the Gorilla Underground, we had 11 strong there just now dipped to 9. over at the YouTube channel. I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you for being there. We need 100 subs, and we need new people watching over there. The 270, go subscribe. It's Gorilla Underground. If you just look at it on YouTube, Gorilla Underground 1984 is my handle, or you could just look up for Gorilla Underground. It's a green, a black gorilla head silhouette with a green hue around it, and it says Gorilla Underground 1984. And of course, you'll see me there now because I've streamed on it. So go over there and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. I'm going to tweet out the link later on, maybe tomorrow. I'll tweet out the link for everyone. And if you want to follow me there, go ahead. You know, I'm probably going to post stuff there that we're not going to get on X all the time, even though the Sunday show will go out on all of these platforms, Lord willing. And we're going to put this up on the infinitefringe.podbeam.com, which will probably be renamed to the Gorilla Underground stream. Thank you so much, everybody that tuned in. Let me see. Thank you to my beautiful guests, man. Everybody was fantastic today. Jeremy and Mr. Klezak, thank you for coming on and giving us your time and your money. The Strangler, Steve King, is in the house. I recently changed my name. I didn't tell you guys. I didn't tell you guys what I did, but I recently changed my name to Rutherford B. Hayes. So you guys can call me Rutherford B. Hayes if you want. To the 280 people on X, I changed my name. So you could call me Rutherford B. Hayes, RBH. All right? For those of you who want to call me something different. What's up, buddy? How you doing? Strangler Steve King, Rocky USA is in the chat. What is up? Twisted, what's going on, my guy? Good to see you. Jason Barker, what's going on? How are you? Dope stuff. Karen Carpenter, greetings and blessings to you. Karen Carpenter is absolutely amazing. Go check her and the Knights of the Storm doing their thing. More Twisted is in the chat. Twisted's been chatting a lot. See, who else did we get? I want to get some people that I didn't say what's up to, but these are repeat offenders over here, which I like. Ashley's in the chat. What's up? The Nihilist. We believe in nothing. We believe in nothing, Lebowski. Hold on. Before I leave, I think I looked that up. I was going to play it. I'm going to make this into a soundbite for the show at some point. Hold on. We believe in nothing, Lebowski. Hold on. Here it goes.
Funny stuff.
Yeah. Look at the things you haven't dreamed of, Lebowski.
Yeah. We believe in nothing. We believe in nothing, Lebowski. Nothing.
We believe in nothing. That's the attitude that we got here in the alt media. We believe in nothing. All right. Let's see who else we got. That's it, man. I mean, I don't see, it's all repeat offenders here, and I shouted everybody out. To anybody that I didn't, what's up? How are you? Thank you for being here. Again, I really appreciate it. Everybody on X, 273 on X, 7 at Gorilla Underground. People at Gorilla Underground are leaving it like it's time to go. And it is time to go. So I will see you next week, Lord willing. Hopefully we don't go to war. Hopefully the world doesn't blow up. You know, let's hope for the best. Things are getting crazy. Let me play us out. If I can even find the, you know what? We'll do that. We'll do that next week because I got so many things going on here. I'll never find the, oh, found it. Here we go. It's an emergency. It's an emergency. There's no time for fake ones, only the real ones right here on the Gorilla Underground. Be good. Appreciate all of you.